Yeah, they still haven't started yet. They wouldn't be walking around like that. I know when you go to most meetings, they don't turn the mics on until they come into order.
Oh. Trying to see if I see anybody I know.
I think you said it. I forgot all about it. So I had that.
Me too. We'll be able to hear it clearly.
When we used to watch the city council meetings, if they took a recess, they muted the mics.
Oh, as the sound is not working well. There was just a message pop up here. We must be having technical difficulties while they're late. Is that Peter Schmidt?
Schmidt,
Okay.
Somebody seeking my attention. Okay.
Oh, it's mine. I didn't see McLaren's. The audio is all garbled. Please correct it.
Thank you, everyone. Welcome. I call a meeting to order of the Strafford County Delegation. And recognize the board. Sorry, we have to do the pledge. So, Representative Chase.
And to the republic for which it
Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you, everyone. Please be seated.
Notice is hereby given that a public meeting of the Strafford County Delegation is scheduled for Monday, December 5th, 2022 at 7 p.m. This meeting will be held in Superior Courtroom 2, upper level, 259 County Farm Road, Dover, New Hampshire, with public access available via Zoom to conduct the following business. 1, approve minutes of August 24th, 2022 public hearing and meeting. 2, review and approve plans for new nursing home construction. 3, approve bond issuance of $150 million fund new nursing home construction. And 4, any other business which may legally come before the committee.
Please call the roll.
Representative Ankerberg.
Present.
Representative Bailey.
Present.
Representative Bixby.
Here.
Representative Cannon.
Here.
Representative Chase. Here. Representative Conley.
Yes.
Representative Lemus. Here. Representative Ellis.
Here.
Representative Fargo. Here. Representative Fontenot.
Here.
Representative Frost is here. Representative Gore.
What's taking so to ask for this here for bumming around? My
Dr.
daughter.
Lemon, you're gonna come on by Zoom. Representative Grassi.
Here.
Representative Rowan.
Here.
Representative Harrington.
Here.
Representative Hayward.
Here.
Representative Corrigan.
Here.
Representative Corrigan.
Here.
Representative Kaczynski.
Here.
Representative Kenny.
Here.
Representative Kittredge.
Here.
Representative Levesque. Here. Representative Newton.
Here.
Representative Oxel. Here. Representative Petrie.
Here.
Representative Rich. Yeah, Zoom. Okay. Representative Salloway.
Here.
Representative Sandler. Representative Schmidt,
Here.
Representative Smith. Here. Representative Southworth.
Here.
Representative Spang. No, I don't see him here. Representative Trelevin. Present. Representative Turcott.
Here.
Representative Vincent.
These are-
Okay. Representative Wall. Here. Representative Wilbur.
Here. Yeah, quorum. Okay, so at this time, I will begin with item 7, public hearing for.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
We recessed the last meeting. I believe we should deal with that first before we go to another meeting. I think procedurally, we're supposed to do something.
What meeting are you?
The meeting that we met and we recessed, we voted on the supplemental appropriation and then we recessed. We haven't done anything for that meeting. I think we should dispose of that meeting first with maybe a motion to adjourn that meeting before we start another one. I don't think we can have 2 meetings going on at the same time. I may be wrong.
I believe you're correct. Basically my recollection, but let's make sure that your recollection is correct in mine as well. Is there anyone who can speak to that issue? Yeah.
Recess until under 6, which ended up in the school.
So as I recall, that meeting was not held. Am I correct? We initially scheduled a subsequent meeting, but I believe that meeting was never held.
I agree with that.
Right. So. Where does that, what is in your opinion?
Make a motion that we adjourn the meeting of September 3rd.
I'll second that.
Okay, so it's been seconded to adjourn the meeting of September. Oh, it is, no, right, September 1. Okay, is there discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Any opposed? They're good? We're good? Very good, okay, so. Item 7, public hearing for comments and questions on the proposed new nursing home construction. And I believe we're due to hear from the architect first. Please step forward and identify yourself to the public and welcome.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Jonathan Hawley. Some of you were here for the workshop earlier last week. I'm going to go through that same presentation for those that weren't here, but it is essentially the packet that I've handed out. We'll go through those slides. I think he can pull it up on the screen. I'm just going to go through this very quickly so that we all know what we're talking about. There's 2 packets, the packet that was handed out at the workshop, and then a supplement budget 1-page parcel here that I was asked to bring that breaks down and talks about how we budgeted from the original $170 million proposal in August to the revised number of $139 million, which is what we're talking about today. So I'm going to go through the presentation quickly. There's the screen, so you can just flip through it if you'd like. This is just to orient all of us. This is a parcel map of the county farm. We're talking about the upper left-hand corner, which is the blue parcel, is the piece of land that we're talking about. When the commissioners came to me, they first envisioned talking about the construction of a new nursing home, but they also talked about using the asset that you have of the county farm land to potentially build additional housing to meet the needs of the surrounding towns. So we did a quick study of the land opportunities. That's what that map represents. The parcel of land that we're directly looking at is on, and you know it better than I, it's, County Farm Road, Crossroad, and County Farm Road. It's the parcel directly behind the herd house. You could jump to the next slide. That piece of land, is essentially farmland that has never been developed, or built on that I'm aware of. And that flows down to the Cocheco River, and the buildable land is primarily along County Farm Crossroad up to the intersection at the north end of the parcel. The next slide, you'll see, actually shows the conceptual plan for both the nursing home and the build out of housing around this. I just want to remind the delegation that this was a conceptual plan to get us to this point. So the housing that we talked about, which was all 3 months ago, single family housing, it could be multifamily housing, it could be, you know, a different configuration, but the idea was to use the surrounding land of this particular parcel to be a step, if you will, for whether it's nursing home staff or the jail staff or workforce housing, essentially. The nursing home is the three-legged clover that you see in the middle, can see on that plan. It is 2 stories to County Farm Crossroads and 3 stories in the back. The plan is conceived as open courtyards to each of the nursing home wings. The wings are designed such that the number of residents to the number of staff, and it all looks inward. Those courtyards are green courtyards. The $170 million proposal had the 3-story courtyard in the back had actually a skylight, so it was enclosed space. The other 2 were open air. If you flip through, I believe the next slide, that's elevations, you can't see at the scale. These are just some images that were done as to what the new nursing home might look like. Port to share, the back elevation, which is the 3-story end of the building. So I'm just going to focus on this quickly. This is the lower level. When I say lower level, the 2 tiers along the front are the future expansion space or basement space that we've talked about. It was approximately 80,000 square feet of space that would be used for the future. In the revised number, we're talking about deleting that space. So what would remain would be kitchen, maintenance, laundry on that lower level, and the cloverleaf tier on the back of resident housing. The second or first floor, which is the main entrance, again, 3 courtyards, 3 living units, if you will. Each of those units are designed to be independently flexible. Today, they could be for memory care, acute care. They could transition as the need arises over time. The third floor is very similar. All of the social service components, support components are at the center of those 3 leaves, if you will. The next slide is a roof plan. You can flip through. These are just some images of what the lobby might look like. The idea is that we're creating a town square where all the amenities and life is internal to the nursing home. The next slide, that's a conception of what a resident room might look like. Let's skip along. So very difficult, but you can see it in the packet, the handout packet. I've included, just for your information, the budget, which was the $170 million budget in August, for your record. And then I'm just going to jump to the next one, which is this single piece of paper that I handed out to you. So George had asked me to explain how we went from $170 million project budget to $139 million project budget. So I just want to explain this so that we're all on the same page. And forgive me, I'm just gonna focus on the $172 million estimate in the upper left-hand corner to start. The construction budget for that proposal was $144 million. That's construction cost. And then the numbers underneath it are furniture, fixture, and equipment, FF&E of $3.5 million. Soft costs, which is all of your design fees, your bond costs, everything that's associated with the other side to that. There's a contingency, an owner's contingency of $2.9 million. And there's an inflation number. That's a number that we have been including in projects for the last year and a half. Because this building is actually not going to be built and occupied for 4.5 to 5 years from this date, should the bond pass and you decide to move forward. There's 18 months to 2 years of design effort, and then there's 3 years of construction. So like everything today, we don't know labor, we don't know material availability, long lead items, those types of things. So it's not prudent to carry just a contingency in the construction manager's fee. We carry an inflation number. So if we, for example, if we buy rubber roofing today, you buy it today. I don't pay for it today. I pay for it when it ships. So if it ships a year from now, the cost is actually the day it leaves the manufacturer's warehouse. So I pay $1 for it today and I buy it and it ships for $1.40. It cost me $1.40. That 40 cents is in the inflation number. That's how we manage this at this particular time. So when George asked me to reduce this, we went back and spent a significant amount of time trying to figure out how we could cut this back. I've done a number of nursing homes over the years. We've already programmed the need for this particular home. We know what the square footage needs to be. All in, we're at roughly 231,000 square feet. What we've done in the $139 million number, and I'm showing you here where it says, how did we lower the costs? We eliminated the future expansion space of 80,000 square feet of unfinished basement downstairs. That's a savings of roughly $21 million. There's a trade-off. I still have to build slab on grade, retaining walls to build on, but I'm eliminating that occupied basement space. We arbitrarily took 20,000 square feet out of the 231,000 square foot nursing home program. I have to find 20,000 square feet. We just said, we're gonna do it more efficiently. We're gonna figure it out. But we've cut it back from what we programmed at 231 to 211,000 square feet. We talked about it the other day, in terms of the site costs. This proposal does not include any of the housing that surrounds the nursing home. We had planned for a 2-lane road around the building, which is required as a fire lane, if you will. But it also would provide access to the housing should it be built in the future. In this proposal to get us down to 139, we've reduced that road to a one-way 12-foot loop road. In one side, out the other side. That's all that's required as a fire lane, and it's all that's required to get access for a tractor trailer to come in to service the back of the building. It's minimum, but that's all that is required. I've done this in kind of in sequence so that you can understand what we can and can't take away. Number 4 and 5 are mixed up, but number 5, we eliminated the skylight on the 3rd courtyard in the back. Number 4, I want to apologize from the workshop to we here today. It was my misunderstanding. I clarified this with Harvey Construction, who did the pricing for this today, that it was my understanding that we were reducing the amount of brick and stone on the outside of the building on the facade. What in fact they priced for roughly a $1.5 million reduction was actually deleting the courtyards and deleting the exterior wall on the inside of those courtyards. So essentially, we pulled those living units together and eliminated the courtyard in its entirety, all three of them. And the last element here in terms of reducing the cost, by reducing the size of the building, Harvey felt that they could cut their 36-month construction schedule by 5 months. So that was an additional saving. So what I've done here is I've shown you what the savings are. I've shown you what each one taken in sequence does for an adjusted construction cost. And then I've shown you what the adjusted project cost. So if you simply just eliminated the 80,000 square feet, the adjusted project cost is roughly $150 million. And then if you take all of those items, it gets us down to $139,400,000. The last thing I'll leave you with is just some simple assumptions and some comments that we have with the pricing. Like everything, this pricing was done based on a conceptual plan. We have an understanding of the size of the building. We have an understanding of what we believe that the quality of what the building should be, and we've adjusted it for the budget. I always tell my clients there's 3 aspects to a project in terms of building it. You can have 2 and you got to compromise on the 3rd. It's quantity, quality, and budget. You can have 2, but you got to compromise on the 3rd. We're trying to achieve a certain number, and I know for certain the amount of square footage that we have, that we need for the nursing home. So what's in play is the quality of the building, or the size of the building. And that's what we've done here. We've eliminated some square footage and we've brought the number down. Going forward, I shared with the working group a few days ago. We are looking at this project as a standalone. It's not tied to any county farm infrastructure like fire line or anything like that. It's standalone. There's an additional premium if you wanted it to all be interfaced together. We're not doing that. We're not planning for any future expansion. So the steel of the building is not designed such to take an additional floor or an additional horizontal addition. It's standalone. And then just cautions going forward. You know, nobody can predict what the economy is going to be. In the past 2 years, we've seen a 10% per year increase. I shared with the working group, Sullivan County just voted their project forward. It's breaking ground. And they bid that project 20 months ago at just roughly over $45 million. They just signed a contract for $76 million. It went up almost $30 million in 20 months. The same project, the same set of drawings, the same subs. It was competitively bid. And I know there's a lot of talk that we're going into a recession and everything else. I'm just saying, I don't see numbers coming down. We are currently planning for 10% inflation in these numbers, knowing that we're not going to get out to bid for 18 to 24 months. It will take that long to design this and permit it with the state. And I will take any questions that anybody has. I look to the chair to tell me what to do.
Representative Fox.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I recall at the workshop, one of the things that just that I just thought was deleting the courtyard. At the workshop, I think it was Representative Harrington asked about all these exterior walls and wasn't that a more expensive type of construction, etc. And the reasoning was that every bed requires an exterior window.
The new standards with the state, with Health and Human Services, requires every bed to have a window.
If you eliminate You eliminate the courtyards and eliminate all those exterior walls?
So right now, the way the plan is designed, it's a double loaded corridor, but all your utility spaces are on the courtyard side. So there are spaces where it opens up for the residents to see, but all the resident rooms are on the outside wall. Yeah.
Representative Chase.
Thank you. Following up on that, I'm just trying to figure this out. So if the courtyards are done, then this is gonna enclose, they won't be flood relief anymore.
They will not.
It'll be flat, and then what is that gonna give for the residents to have some outside area? Is that, are you closing the courtyard here in the front of the building to the main building?
They would all be enclosed. They're taking them all away. So you're talking, so in terms of design standards going forward, a lot of the design industry is called, they talk about bi-building design, where spaces are connected to the outside. And that's the whole idea of the courtyards, so that people have that connection. The reduction of $1.5 million taking these courtyards away will give you more of a traditional double-loaded corridor building where you have to go outside the building to the outside of the building footprint, if you will, to be on the outside.
Thank you.
Representative Wall.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your presentation tonight. At our recent meeting, we talked at great length about geothermal heating. Can you share with the delegation what the intent is regarding geothermal heating, knowing that energy costs are increasing dramatically and we're planning for the future?
Yeah. So I did, since the workshop, I did confirm with Harvey that yours and others desire to explore geothermal heating, and that is a possibility within this pricing. But I will share with the committee that geothermal is a bit of black magic. You don't know what you have for quantity and quality of water until you drill the well. When we did Merrimack County Nursing Home 18 years ago, it was planned to have a little more than, I think it was 26 wells total. That's what it was designed around. We happened to hit an aquifer where every one of the wells talked to each other. In other words, it was an open loop geothermal system where the water comes in, dumps to the aquifer, and then draws it back out. The water temperature never changed. It went in 65 degrees, it always came out at 50 degrees. And that's what you need. You need to be able to absorb that energy. And hitting an aquifer where the water mixes deep in the ground, it was perfect. That ended up with only 14 wells. I did another project for Eastman up in Grantham, where we designed, and this is what we would do in this, we would design about 30% of the mechanical system, and then we'll go out and drill the well, and a well. And what we want to do is get a water test to figure out if we have quantity and quality of water to support a geothermal system. So once we drill the well, here you actually have municipal water. But there, what we decided to do was drill one well, and if it was bad, we'd use the well for domestic. It happened to be that we had to drill 3 wells to get it, and the board decided to go in that direction. So there's some uncertainty until you drill the well as to whether or not the geothermal system is going to work. Now, since the last 15 years, geothermal systems have changed. They've gone from open loop systems to closed loop systems, which are built differently. They're basically almost a gravel packed well, where it's a closed loop. The water never leaves the system. But the idea is that it'll go down 400 feet, come back up and be the 50 degrees that you want. They even have what they call geothermal balls, which is like a ball of yarn. It's 1,000 feet of rubber pipe that they throw in the ground, 12, 15 feet down, fill it with concrete, and they might put 400 of them out in the field to dissipate the heat as you need it. So there's variations and the technology is changing, but there's still the issue that we have to do some exploration before we can decide that that is actually a prudent way to go. A long-winded answer, I apologize.
Further questions? Representative Beloved.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks again for coming. You put so much time and energy and effort into this. I just appreciate you sharing your knowledge with us so much. My question is regard to the basement space. When I first heard about that, I thought it was a pretty smart idea to have unfinished space that also had light and air because it was on that lower level, but the lid was sloped and it looked out. And I'm pretty sure you can't answer this question, but I'm wondering, what's the differential if we don't do it now and we want it in the future, we can't do it. No, and if we do it now, we have this space for 2025 costs versus not being able to do it at all. Okay.
Yep.
Thanks again.
Representative Blumer next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I commend you on the plans. They're beautiful plans. They don't look to me like the most cost-effective plans that can be done for a county nursing home. How much would be saved if you had, instead of the ovals, you had 3 rectangular buildings with a single pitch, with just a roof over rectangular buildings? Still have all the services that you're proposing, but simple, low cost construction building.
I think there's a mix of metaphors there. I'm not gonna argue with you. The cheapest and most efficient building to build is a square. And I've always told people, every corner you add adds money. It's simple.
And every curve you add adds more money.
Well, we can argue that point. Whether I draw a straight line or I draw a curved line, it may take a few minutes longer to lay it out, but essentially the mason's still laying the same amount of whatever, in that arc. The question here is creating something, it's not necessarily about a square, because when you take into account how a nursing home operates, the idea here is at the end of each leaf, I'll just call it the leaf. At the end of each leaf, there's a requirement in the FGI guidelines, which is what New Hampshire Department of Health and Human Services uses to license the space, that from the nursing station, you're supposed to see every door to every resident room. So what happens, this is designed so at each end of each leaf, I'm in the nurse station, I can see half the rooms headed out to that leaf on both sides. And there's a nursing station on both sides. So that it's balanced, the nurse and the LNAs, everybody has a room. The minute I square that off, I can't see half of the rooms. There's a corner. I can't see around the corner. So if you can imagine, I'm seeing the arc, but I can see half the rooms before I lose. So that's the premise for why we're doing what we're doing. It's not to say that you can't do it with squares. DHHS has allowed us in existing homes to use cameras. But that provides another whole level of some discussion that I'm happy to have with you after the fact.
Follow up. So, and first of all, just a comment, I wasn't suggesting square, but a rectangle similar to what you have, just a simpler building. The second question is on the inflation cost of 7 million. Now, if this takes 3 to 4 years to complete, that assumes inflation of somewhere between 2 and 2.75%. Is that realistic given
Per year.
per year?
Yeah.
You think that's realistic given where we are today?
I don't have a magic, I don't know. I can tell you that that's what Harvey has recommended at this particular point in time.
I'd like to get to the question. Representative Gordon,
understand, we don't, regardless of what the scope of the plan that we agree to, it's not gonna be finalized for a year, like, it's 1.5 to 2 years, and a two-part question. What are out-of-pocket costs during that period? And also, what are we spending anything more if we begin by examining the more expansive, the more future-proof, and unfortunately the higher starting cost option, or do you save any money? How much do we save, if anything, by like limiting ourselves to the cheapest possible option right at the start?
Can you define what is the cheapest, what is the option that you're talking about?
Well, the controversy over this, and I think this is an excellent plan, I think it's very reasonable, and also there's a lot of revenue that's gonna come in to pay for this. But there is still the option whether we should build just a bare minimum belief we can get away with, or whether we should build more than that. So are we incurring any costs, in the first couple of years by starting out looking at the possibilities of the more expensive option, and then scaling it back, scaling it back right here at the outset of it? That's some of the members of this body obviously want to do.
I don't have the exact perfect answer for you. I think it's a very subjective conversation. I think, is there merit in my mind? If you can afford to build what you're going to need for future space now, it is going to be cheaper than it is 3, 4, 5, 10 years down the road. I do know that in conversations with Ray, part of that future space was planned to be possibly a daycare, social service agencies. These are all things that you bring into the nursing home that are not only a benefit to the residents, but are a benefit to the staff. If you can have employee daycare for the nurse that's not going back and forth. A lot of people don't come back to work when they have a baby, but if they have the opportunity to have that child with them all day, staffing is an issue. So there's those kinds of conversations that, were conceptualized. My opinion is anything you build today is going to be cheaper in the future. It's just what can you agree on today is the right number and the right scope.
No, not representative.
One of the idea behind this plan was that by designing it by designing the space act well, it would be possible to staff it with fewer people because you have a better sight line to the rooms. If we did a rectangular building, would that require more staffing?
Possibly, yes.
And that staffing that we'd be paying for the next 50 years.
Of course.
Yeah.
Other questions? Yeah, at this point, I'm going to call on Brianna asking Belanger to give us her statistical analysis of the current situation, but these are these revenue sources and these that have currently or have in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Brianna Haskins-Belanger. I started working at Riverside Rest Home in 2009 as a licensed parenting assistant, to be closer to my grandmother and to test the water of nursing before making tens of thousands of dollars in school. I entered nursing school in 2010 during a nursing shortage. In 2012, I received my nursing degree, and quite frankly, I couldn't find a job anywhere else. We weren't a nursing surplus. The ebb and flow of the healthcare workforce in our area tends to follow a 10-year cycle. Many of my coworkers will tell you a similar story from the decade prior. The year prior to the pandemic, we started to see this decline in our traffic, which was only exacerbated when schools shut their doors. As we near a year of school being open, we started to see an increase in applicants. I anticipate this will continue to rise in the upcoming years. Over the past nearly 3 years, I've been trusted with the challenge to assist others by directing and coordinating the efforts of COVID-19 response to the complex, while pursuing my licensure to become a nursing home administrator myself. But that's enough. For the past 6 months, I've had the opportunity to sit back and to listen to the questions, comments, and concerns regarding the master plan, or more appropriately coined by Commissioner McGuire, the three-legged stool concept. What you've been presented covers a multitude of information, from the nursing home bill, solar farm, repurposing of the current Riverside Rest Home building, affordable housing efforts, rezoning of the cities, goals to address homelessness, and opportunities to bring services to the aging population in their home. The plan is wonderful, and there's no doubt in my mind that with the years of experience, knowledge, and track records, and established relationships that Commissioner McGuire's, Commissioner Watson, Commissioner Roloff, Administrator Bauer, and Dr. Dennison all possess, these issues plaguing Strafford County can and will be addressed. For the sole purpose of what I'm going to present to you tonight, I want you to put 2 of those legs aside and only focus on the request to be able to bond up the amount of the provided proposals to build a new nursing home. Yes, roughly 139 million or roughly 170 million are large numbers. The sticker shock alone can prompt people to say no without truly understanding why this amount is needed or how it will be paid. Many of you have heard the deficits of the current building, such as the lack of air conditioning, air exchange deficiencies, asbestos in the walls, the shared rooms, shared toilets, community shared showers and tubs, and how it no longer serve the needs of the individuals in care. I'm not going to talk about structural deficits in detail. Tonight, I'm going to talk about services we can't provide, and subsequently, the reimbursement and revenue we are missing due to those structural deficits. I think most everyone here can agree, Strafford County needs a nursing home. If you don't, I happily invite you to come by so I can provide your report. The key concerns I've heard throughout each meeting, workshop, letter to the editor, press release, and side conversation regarding this plan is what is the $170 million buying? Who's paying for it? And ultimately, what will be the impact on the county taxpayers? We've all been told this won't increase the county tax portion of the individuals in Strafford County. You've been told by the commissioner and Administrator Bauer, we will continue to be under the county tax cap. I'm here to explain how, if you approve the request, this will be possible. Even in the worst case scenario, none of the other aspects of the plan work. So let's talk numbers. Many of you will be familiar with this information, as it has been provided to you over the years in budgets you have approved. This slide breaks down the average occupancy, average percent of actual occupancy by territories, average reimbursement rate, and average operating expenditures for Riverside Rest Home for the years 2015 to 19. I utilize these 5 years as base comparison for my estimated projections of occupancy for 2025. If I were to include the pandemic years of 2020 to 2022, it would artificially inflate some of the revenues and significantly decrease actual occupancy. As you can see by the numbers in red, or for the expenditures, in green, the revenue. Riverside alone has only generated revenue roughly 73 to 79% of its overall operating costs. Budgets you've seen and have approved have provided greater explanation of offsetting overall county revenue. The roughly $7.26 million of revenue not itemized in this table consists of miscellaneous revenue, Hyder House revenue, meal agreement, electricity agreement, employee healthcare contributions, PSP reimbursement, provider bed tax, and Medicare Part B revenue. Medicare Part B revenue is important to point out, as this historically has only generated roughly $300,000 a year at Riverside. With the new building and the master plan, we have the potential to increase this revenue tenfold. But I don't want to estimate increased Medicare B revenue. My goal is to demonstrate a very conservative estimate of how we would be able to generate increased revenue by simply being able to provide services that individuals in the community need. In other nursing homes in Strafford County, the state, and across the nation are compensated for daily. On this slide, you'll see the simplified breakdown of the National Skilled Nursing Facility occupancy and daily reimbursement rate averages compared to Riverside Restaurant. The national information provided was compiled from the National Investment Center, or NIC, and their annual skilled nursing facility, or SNF as you'll hear me refer to, the data report. NIC compares skilled nursing industry data sources to identify and report on SNF occupancy and financial trends with 12-month rolling averages. I've taken into consideration some of the feedback from last week's meeting, and I've utilized years 2017 to 21 to show you average reimbursement rates, as those have continued to increase yearly. I've also provided you with 2022 Riverside Rest Home specific rates. I've continued to use occupancy rates from 2015 to 2019, as nationwide occupancy rates saw significant declines due to the mandated COVID restrictions on admissions, placement in regards to quarantines, and the workforce declines. The need for placement in nursing homes has not decreased with the pandemic. The ability for facilities to admit individuals was burdened by significant restrictions. As we previously discussed in this room, the aging population will continue to exceed the current availability for placement in these facilities. There's no doubt in my mind that by 2025, we will be seeing comparable, if not greater, occupancy rates than we saw pre-pandemic. The highlighted areas on the slide are huge driving factors in my confidence in the ability to generate increased revenue within the building. As you can see on this slide, National Medicare Part A, or skilled care as being referred to it, occupancy rates in nursing facilities is nearly 14%. Riverside Rest Home is 0.4% on average. Medicare Part A is a variable reimbursement rate based on the services provided to the individuals during their stay. The Riverside Medicare Part A rate here is an average of the reimbursement we received for the limited number of skilled patients we served. Why haven't we provided more skilled care now? We simply don't have the building to be able to provide the skilled care services that others can. This is why we've had residents that call Riverside Rest Home home transferred to other facilities after a hospital stay to receive things such as IV antibiotics. Those facilities are reimbursed with federal Medicare A rates. Once they exhaust that benefit, they come back to Riverside, where we receive the Medicaid reimbursement rate. With the new building, it will be able to return directly to Riverside, where we can provide those services needed in the comfort of the place they already call home, subsequently allowing us to benefit from the Medicare A reimbursement that is currently going to other facilities. It's not that we don't have the qualified staff. We have skilled nurses, and unique to other nursing homes, we even have therapists and occupational therapists already on staff. We don't have the structure to provide skilled nursing services required. Therefore, we don't have the equipment, and subsequently, we don't provide them. Without private rooms, without services on the units, we are missing giant potential for skilled service reimbursement. Having private rooms in a new facility, we will be able to provide services such as IV medications, drainage tube management, things that all become hazards to a patient in their room, or potential hazards. The more in line someone needs, the greater the risk of tripping, falling, and being ripped out. We already provide many of these services at higher where the rooms are private. However, those patients are utilizing a Medicare benefit under hospice services and don't qualify for the reimbursement on top. We receive multiple calls a week for individuals seeking placement for short-term rehab, but we can't meet their needs, so they go elsewhere, or they're forced to stay in already overcrowded hospitals. Another aspect to consider is the deficits of semi-private rooms regarding infection control. This was brought to the foreground with COVID. Beyond COVID, we are seeing more communicable diseases and infections, which require someone to have a private room. Setting aside the transmission to others and the tireless attempts to mitigate the spread of COVID by shuffling people out of their rooms a place that has become their home. We miss huge revenue potentials. Some of you may be aware of the skilled waiver offered during COVID. This didn't require a 3-day qualifying hospital stay, but we couldn't take advantage of that reimbursement. We provided the care the residents needed, but we couldn't provide the isolation required to benefit from the skilled reimbursement. When your residents share a room with someone, a toilet with 3 others, as well as a shower with 30 to 40 other people, it's not isolation. You've heard about the aging population, but the population is also growing in size. The increase in the bariatric population forces us to turn away individuals as we can't meet their needs. Our doorways don't accommodate wheelchairs for individuals over 500 pounds. The size of the mechanical lifts required can't fit in our rooms, especially if there's a roommate. The list goes on of the services we can't provide in this building, or with all semi-private rooms. The $139 million proposal to lower the overall cost, eliminating the expandability, also eliminates the opportunity to adjust and expand for services of the future. Services and care that we can't even think of today. As the acuity level increases, so do the advancements in technology and equipment needed. With those continued advancements, the need to expand is inevitable. If it's not built in today, the cost would be exponentially more to expand in the future. We have a building that isn't able to meet today's needs, never not mind the needs of tomorrow. Let's not do that again with this project. Now that I've shown you the side-by-side comparison of percent of occupancy by payer source, let me show you what that looks like for potential revenue if we can provide and build for those things. These are conservative estimates of what I anticipate to see for daily occupancy rate and lowball estimates of reimbursement rates for 2025. As pointed out in the workshop last week, my estimated reimbursement rates are wrong. I do not disagree. I don't want to provide you increased reimbursement rates, as those are calculated independent on the overall acuity level and services provided to all residents of the facility. Here are these 2017 to 21 national averages, with the exception of the private pay rate. The New Hampshire private pay rates are already roughly 19% higher than national averages listed in the prior slide. Private pay rates in other New Hampshire County nursing homes are roughly $330 to $350 per day this year. There's plans to be around $380 to $400 in 2023. Our rate is $280, and understandably so. How do you charge more money for half of a room, a quarter of a toilet, and a community shower as well? The preliminary Medicaid reimbursement rate for 2023 is already roughly $210 per day. Again, these are low reimbursement rates in total revenue estimates. The more specialized services we can provide, the greater those rates will become. Another aspect to consider is our specialized behavioral unit. The New Hampshire's plans to close Blinding Meadow, the only state-sponsored nursing home. We are in a position to be able to expand our current 20-bed behavior unit. As you can see in the slide, the reimbursement rate I've used is today's estimated Medicaid reimbursement rate. As the standard Medicaid reimbursement rate for the facility increases, this will as well. Using my low occupancy estimate on the left, this demonstrates that by increasing services we provide, along with the roughly $3.4 million in additional offsets we will see, they're comprised of the jail bond maturing in 23, additional smaller bonds that will mature in 25, and additional Medicaid capital reimbursement for the new building. We will be able to generate an increase in revenue to offset the cost of the estimated bond payment for the $139 million project. Utilizing the still low but more realistic estimate to the right, you can see the increase in revenue would cover the estimated bond payment for the $170 million project. Again, not considered in here are the additional revenues we will be able to see with the increased reimbursement rates, increased specialized behavioral unit rate, offering respite days, payments from other insurances, but most importantly, that Medicare Part B. Here you can see the estimated difference between the two cost proposals you have heard for the nursing home project. The first year payment on a $139 million project versus the $170 million project is the mere difference of roughly $2.1 million. But with that difference, you eliminate the ability to easily expand and adjust to the needs of the times. This slide shows a rough estimate of the first 5 years of the 38-year bond. I wanted to demonstrate here how each year that bond payment decreases, thus increasing the revenue and offset. The estimated expenditures for 2025 were calculated using 5.44% yearly increase, and this was the pre-pandemic average identified in years this would calculate occupancy averages. I do acknowledge we are looking at record inflation. However, with record inflation, there are significant efforts to review and adjust reimbursement rates, both in the state and federally. Yes, I agree, $170 million sounds like a lot. But when you factor in a small portion of the services we will be able to provide and receive reimbursement for, generate increased revenue, this will keep us on target with what you have approved in the budgets over the previous 8 years. I'm hopeful that by showing the percentage of estimated revenue and estimated expenditures, it assists to illustrate how the new nursing home project won't increase. I'd like to take an opportunity to address some of the other concerns that have been raised. One of the concerns I've heard is, won't you be competing with private nursing homes in the area? Simply no. We will finally be comparable. The demand for beds prior to the pandemic and during the pandemic have exceeded the abilities of the current facility. As the population ages, so will the demand on these facilities. Even with the expansion efforts for caring for aging in their homes by bringing services to them, the need for 24-hour care is an inevitable truth for so many people. Another concern I heard is, why not get out of the nursing home business and lease the land for a private nursing home? Extensive studies and ongoing discussions have occurred with New Hampshire legislature and the Department of Health and Human Services since 1970. Commissioner McGlaris has had an active role in those studies and discussions. It will be able to provide you a multitude of reasons why this is not right for New Hampshire counties. My simple understanding of it is county tax dollars and federal monies make up the Medicaid funds. New Hampshire manages those funds and allocates them appropriately. Regardless of the county operating a nursing home, county taxes will still be required to fund Medicaid reimbursement to those private facilities that do accept it. By operating the nursing home, not only do we provide the safety net for those in our community, we have the ability to recoup some of those dollars. For those nursing homes that don't accept Medicaid, they give residents an eviction notice when the money's about to run out, regardless of their condition or ability to find another place to go. Those residents come to Riverside. Just in this past month, an individual was kicked out of a facility during the final days of their life. A devastating event for this individual and their family. Sadly, this does happen all too often. Private homes in New Hampshire are closing the doors because they can't turn a profit. This also increases the demand on county homes. One of the other concerns I've heard is, how can you increase the amount of residents you care for if you don't have the staff? You design a building with staff efficiency on your priority list. As Administrator Bauer and Commissioner McGlaris have demonstrated with the current nursing home budget, you budget for the residents you have staff to not only adequately, but sufficiently care for them and meet their needs. I was asked if I could provide current staffing ratios and estimated staffing ratios for the new nursing home. I can't provide that number in black and white. What I can tell you is, we don't staff based on the number of individuals. We staff based on the needs of the residents we have. This gives us the opportunity to move staff around to different units to meet the needs of the unit at any given time, and we limit residents if we can't meet their needs. This philosophy is how we continue to provide great care, even when the building can't help us expand those services. This would be the case for the future build as well. There's been some comments made to the effect of writing a blank check for $170 million. This is an unfortunate, ill-guided representation of what is being asked of you. We can't explore the feasibility of alternative energy sources without paying for those studies. Anything built today will be more energy efficient than the current building. We can't provide definitive bond payment numbers without exploring borrowing options in detail with a financial advisor. We can't go to a financial advisor without having a builder provide building cost breakdowns and timelines. We can't get building cost breakdowns and timelines, so we go to bid for construction. Can't go to bid for construction if we can't provide an agreement for the project. Can't provide an agreement for the project if we can't provide delegation approval for the ability to bond the project. I know it's been mentioned through this presentation, but I want you to think toward the future and recognize the significant loss by eliminating the ability to expand. You lose the potential for future beds, the potential for lease space for community-based services, the potential for outpatient services, or an older adult activity and recreation center. The potential to use or lease some of the space for a childcare center with lower rates for our employees. Right now, affordable childcare is the reason behind why so many are forced to stay home and are unable to work, negatively impacting the workforce. Not only would this allow individuals to work, this would allow for coordination with our residents to participate in activities with children. Most importantly, the expandability offers the ability to adapt to the ever-changing needs in the healthcare industry. The building we have has adequately served Strafford County for nearly half a century. In the past 2 decades, the increase in the level of care expected to be provided in nursing homes has surpassed the capability of the building. The $170 million project with expandability demonstrates the commissioners and Administrator Bauer's ability to learn from what we've done, what we do, and that there's no limit to what we're capable of achieving. They have provided you with a forward-thinking plan. As I hope to be a part of the future of Riverside, I believe it to be unwise to limit this bill to something that meets today's demand without any building considerations for the long. To be honest, I'm not a dreamer, I'm a realist, and quite frankly, I can provide the downside to every situation. I can't see the downside to the greater from my proposal that you've been provided to the nursing home center. But as a wise man once said, and another wise man continues to remind me, at least monthly, trust but verify. The elected officials and the appointed leaders of Strafford County have demonstrated time and time again over the past 3+ decades. If you give them your trust, you are kept informed and are able to verify throughout the process of any project. They're the first to stop any spending if something isn't coming out. But more often than not, they deliver, and they deliver more than what is expected. They won't be here forever. With their combined 100+ years of experience leading this county, these are the individuals you want in charge of any project and plan to this magnitude. A new nursing home would not only benefit those in need in placement. In this plan, it provides the base that will allow other entities in Strafford County to continue to grow, contribute, adapt their services to address all of the items identified in the three-legged stool concept. I know for many of you, this information you didn't need. For others, I hope this information provided you a better understanding of the first leg, because without this leg, there is no. Thank you all for your time and attention this evening.
I think I wanted to speak to a motion for so we can get the delegation involved in the discussion of the proposal before us. Since we were not yet in possession of the architect's reduced cost project, we estimated an amount of $150 million, which is what was published in the media, and therefore, in order to entertain further discussion, we have a motion and Representative Farmer is recommended to read the bond council's recommended motion for a bonding of $150 million, which is what we have. Representative Bonner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Whereas Strafford County, New Hampshire County plans to construct a new 215-bed nursing home of approximately 231,000 square feet and seeks to issue general obligation bonds in the amount of $150 million, the bond, to finance the project. And whereas the county delegation has approved a supplemental appropriation for the project in the amount of $170 million. And whereas pursuant to the provisions of RSA 28:24, after the delegation has authorized the issuance of the bonds, the interest rate, maturity, and other terms and conditions of the bonds will be approved by the county's Board of Commissioners at a publicly noticed meeting after 1, hearing the results of a public sale of the bonds. 2, hearing the results of a bidding process for the purchase of the bonds that will be managed for the county by an independent municipal advisor. Or 3, voting to enter into a loan agreement with the New Hampshire Municipal Bond Bank. Now, therefore, in consideration of the foregoing, it is hereby resolved that the delegation hereby authorizes the issuance of the bonds in the amount of $150 million for the purpose of financing the project with such interest rates, maturities, and other terms and conditions as may be determined by the commissioners at a duly noticed public meeting. Authorizes the commissioners to apply for, obtain, and accept federal, state, or other aid, if any, which may be available for the project, including but not limited to funding through the state of New Hampshire Governor's Office for Emergency Relief and Recovery County Nursing Home Infrastructure Program, currently estimated to be available in the amount of $50,075,000 in order to reduce the amount of the bonds to be issued and to comply with all applicable laws applicable to the project. Authorizes the commissioners to issue, negotiate, sell, and deliver the bonds, and authorizes the commissioners to take any other action or to pass any other vote relative thereto. Resolved that the county is hereby authorized to execute and deliver such documents and other materials and to take such other actions as may be required for the closing and delivery of the bonds. Resolved that all actions hereto taken in a manner consistent with the foregoing are hereby ratified and confirmed.
Thank you, Mr. President.
I'll text it.
Representative Soloway, second. So at this time, I am going to open the public hearing because we do have some members of the public here and we have some members of the public on the Zoom. So we have someone in the audience that wishes to speak. Please come forward and identify yourself.
William Hall Durham. I just wanted to speak to the two plans, the 140 to the 170. If you're going to end up at 140,000 with 3 floors,
140 million, you mean?
million, excuse me, with 3 floors, and it's only going to take 1/5 more money for 1/3 more space. In other words, if you go to a 4th floor basement where you can expand, which has been advocated for, that is going to be 1/3 more space, but it's only going to cost 1/5 more money. And so not having that expansion is very penny wise and pound foolish, because you're going to have to, if you have to expand, you're going to have to replicate that in another building. Keep in mind that if you go 4 floors, you don't increase the size of the roof any, you don't lose heat and whatnot through the roof. But if you do this at a later date, it's going to cost a whole lot more than 1/5 more to give you that floor in a different building. You want to consolidate your buildings for staff, and you want to go your 4 floors. Thank you.
There are other members.
Hi, I'm Melissa Eager. I'm a registered nurse who works at long-term care facilities. I have some concerns about the staffing that you were mentioning, that you want to lower Strafford due to efficiency.
Could you speak into the mic?
Oh, sorry. The reason for why we have such short staffing is due to low staffing within the ratios. So like for right now, I'm a registered nurse. I take on me for 26 to 56 people. And then my LNAs, who I'm concerned about, who do the major work, they normally take respectively 1 to 5 is what it should be. Nowadays, they want about 1 to 9, which is almost impossible. What are you expecting the ratios to be? Sorry.
As a nurse, you understand the acuity level. As a nurse, you understand the acuity level of the individual is gonna drive that. Right now, when I talk about staffing efficiencies in the building, not talking about reducing the numbers, the ratios that we see, especially the ratios we have. Because those are lower than what we had in 2018. What I talk about when I talk about staffing efficiencies is something that was mentioned tonight, is building that square building. So we have that in place. One of our units, our nurses station is in the corner, so you can see the hallways. The problem with that in that building is that our solariums, or where they're eating, is down one end of the hall. So this is on our memory care unit. So now we're staffing for someone to be in that other hall, because there's individuals that are down there or in their rooms. So when I talk about staffing efficiencies, it's not decreasing ratios necessarily. It's designing a building so that you can have someone assisting individuals leading in their solarium while they can see the rest of the unit. The design that we have today, where you need individuals down that hall. This would provide that line of sight. So it's not getting rid of numbers. It's not decreasing necessarily the ratios of the staff and efficiencies of the building itself.
I have one follow-up. So with the inflation rates that you have for these numbers, and the fact that you guys make 20 million about right now, and you're saying that you're gonna have about $9 million in profit, did you account for the inflation for LNAs? Because they are expected to be making more money if we want to keep them. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Chuck Rhodes. I live in Dover. And I'm here to support this this proposal. This is such a visionary idea. When I walk in my neighborhood, 40 years I go daily walk with my wife, and we stop and talk with neighbors. This is a topic. We talk about this. We talk about the opioid crisis. We talk about the bills we're going to get from every source. And there's a vision here in this plan that addresses those 3 areas, most importantly, the nursing home. And I'm just asking Belanger, your presentation, I came here in support of this. After your presentation, I'm feeling more strongly support. You know, the senior citizens deserve our caretaking at a reasonable cost. This is doing it. It's going to be under the tax cap, the county tax cap. Why do we? And we still have some numbers crunching to do. I understand that. But reasonably speaking, as a member of the community, and seeing in the last election where county commissioners, with the main issue being the nursing home, were all reelected. I'm not just speaking for myself here. The whole county spoke for that, spoke on this issue. I hope you get on board. I hope you resist the urge for partisanship. That doesn't belong in this issue. Get off that wagon. Work together. Engage in a shared vision for what's best for our county. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rose. So, well, to hear from this gentleman, we also had 3 people waiting on Zoom.
Peter Potenza. Just a few things regarding the basement, the 4th floor. One thing about that, and it's about a fifth of the cost, but I don't think your numbers include the fit up that would be involved, correct? It's just the basement. So there's a lot that goes in with it. Mr. Groen and Representative Groen did talk about straight lines. So one thing to consider, yes, the masons can make curves in the foundation, but now you got to deal with drywall, ceilings, if it's gonna be a gridded ceiling, there's a lot of costs involved with that. So definitely straight lines, I think we should see what those numbers would look like. I know you talked about geothermal, that is very expensive, and you could put a well in the ground and it could be dry. And you could have to drill 3 or 4. I think you should consider VRF. You need ductwork anyways, because you need to have makeup air, conditioned makeup air. So I think all those things need to be taken into account when you run your budget numbers. Along with the ductwork, you can put in ionization, which neutralizes most bacteria, airborne diseases, better filtration. So all those things should be taken into consideration when you're discussing this and putting those budgets together. Again, if you're gonna do the 4th floor, I think, again, it's kind of misguided or a misunderstanding about the cost of that, because it is just strictly a basement. And what the full fit of it, what is that gonna be down the road, and what will those costs end up becoming? Thank you.
We're gonna circulate a sheet so that we can get the contact information for the members of the public who have come to speak with us tonight. And similar to what we have in common with the and so forth. Okay, so now in the meantime, we're going to ask for the people who are zoomed in to address us, and delegation will be able to see them on the monitors. Go ahead, Jeff.
Who's being asked to speak? Me? Okay.
This is Cynthia Walter.
No, you have a misunderstanding here. It's either who they think you're identifying.
Cynthia Walter. That's what I said.
But her mic is off. There you go.
You think your mic is on?
Yeah, my mic is on. I'm Cynthia Walter. Yes, I'm here. Yes, I'm a resident of Strafford County, a Dover resident, and I'm just about to pull up my my talk that I had to give. Oh, I just won't stay up there. Right. So I'm in support of this this proposal. I think it's the economically wise thing to do, as well as the humane thing to do. I have a 5 points that I have written down about why I think it's the smart thing to do. First of all, we've already heard that pay now or pay more later. Even if now is 2023, 4, 5, we know we'll be paying a lot more later. Also, I'd like to comment, speaking on the paying more later component. When I saw the square footage proposed in the first plan of 30-some thousand, and then the idea that to reduce the cost, you were going to drop it down 11,000 square feet. I think I heard that correctly. I could be wrong. I'm not sure what numbers of square feet I was hearing for patient space versus other spaces. But I would just say, if we look at the numbers of amount of money that can be recouped when you have the opportunity to increase the patient capacity and the quality of care, the more complex care, and the reimbursements associated with that, and the fact that those people really deserve that more complex care, I think we need to re-examine the bottom line of 139,000 and ask what we could do more to recoup those costs. Another way to recoup the costs is to keep the idea of the daycare center. It's very possible that the funding, we saw big amounts of funding for nursing homes, but if you add to that the funding available on the state and federal and even private donations associated with daycare centers, much less the revenue of the daycare center, I think you could see that adding a small space allotted to daycare would not only help the staff, but it helps the economics. So on many economic fronts, I talked about in a handout that I'll email to all the rest of the representatives that were here. And please, I support this wholeheartedly.
I worked in nursing homes for years when I was younger, and I took care of my husband's in-laws for years. And so we know that good nursing homes save money because poorly designed nursing homes increase costly health effects on the patients as well as the staff. And those can cost huge amounts. So it's better to design the most efficient and health providing environment you can. Thank you.
Thank you. Who's the next one? Mr. Atherton?
Yes. Please support this proposed project to build a state-of-the-art nursing home while to repurpose the old senior center as a homeless shelter. The project represents a wise use of the existing Riverside Rest Home facility. It creates a new structure that respects people who wish to remain vital members of society. Furthermore, the repurposed senior center allows the homeless to find shelters so that they can replan their future. We cannot wish our problems away. The number of seniors and homeless grows every year. This undeniable fact will eventually force us to act. Therefore, we can pay some now, as you heard before, or we'll pay a whole lot more later. We face two. Okay. This is a 2-for-1 project. One new nursing home liberates the present one to be repurposed to shelter the ever-growing number of local homeless. While the present nursing home can no longer do its job for the elderly, it can readily be modified as a homeless shelter. Homeless needs differ from those of senior citizens, who often spend all day and every day in the care facility. The repurposed facility will serve as a shelter that lets people get their bearings and then leave to rejoin society and start again. When seniors live active lives, they have less need for medical and mental health assistance. That reduces the cost of care. Seniors can help solve problems during using their years of experience. Active seniors demand less attention from relatives, thus freeing their time to address other demands of life. Put simply, our society benefits more from active and engaged seniors than from a bunch of old folks who sit in front of TVs or park in halls waiting for the next meal, as I've witnessed in other facilities. So to the homeless shelter. These people do not want to be homeless. They need time and safe surroundings to gather strength and their wits to create life plans that help them in the society. A shelter temporarily houses people and gives them the time to solve their problems. Once back on their feet, these citizens will become contributing members to society. This project represents Strafford's chance to do the right thing, sending a message that this county takes care of its own with pride and dignity. Thank you for listening.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I, first of all, give my wholehearted, enthusiastic approval for this plan. I think it's very thoughtful and forward thinking, and I think a lot of work has gone into it. And I think it addresses many of our community needs all in one package. Brianna, your presentation was superb. If this doesn't convince people to vote for every single person there to vote for it, I don't know what will. The irony is not lost on me that maybe some of the people who will vote to not push this forward are the ones who will end up costing us money in the long run. So I hope people will be able to recognize that. So yes, I will be your biggest cheerleader of this project. I think you've done a phenomenal job. I do have one thing that I wanted to bring up. I can't say anything further than what the other commenter said. I agree with what they said. I have found it rather difficult. Is someone trying to ask me a question? I can't hear. I found it rather difficult in this process to find information, and I had to get it from people who are sitting here in this delegation. And knowing that you have my full support, I say that you will accept this criticism in the intent that it is meant. I implore you to please put this information on a landing page with access to a slideshow and all of these numbers. So that would be very beneficial to the community as well. I do have a question because there have been representatives who have been putting it out in our community, and once information is out there, it's hard to take it back. That this will create a 30% increase in our county tax rate. Is anyone able to answer that?
Who wants to take that?
I don't know if you can hear me or not. This is Doug. I work with Larry, I'm chairman of the Board of County Commissioners. As has been stated previously in the past 8 or 9 months, it is the Board of Commissioners' intention to ensure that this project moving forward, not only the short term, but the long term, will remain within the property tax caps of the 3 municipalities. That's complicated formulas involved in doing so, but we don't plan on raising county taxes above the allowed tax caps in the 3 municipalities, 3 cities. 10 towns do not have tax caps. That's our intent.
Great, so that information was not accurate. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, that's correct, because number one, the Board County Commission would never agree with 30% increase in tax rate under any circumstance. So.
Okay.
It's not.
Great, so I hope that it's safe to assume that that information won't be continued to be distributed throughout our communities. That would be very helpful, but it would be also very helpful to have this information online. So when this information is put out into our community falsely, that we have a place where we can go and point people to those sources. So I want to end with, again, thanking you for a phenomenal job and excellent work.
Thank you for hearing what you said. Are there further?
Good evening. I just want to speak in support of some kind of new nursing home, having visited Riverside often. It's very cramped. It's depressing. Probably it doesn't really allow for modern computer access to all kinds of modern equipment. I personally spent 6 months trying to find my brother a nursing home. He's a citizen of Dover. It took us 6 months to find a place in New Hampshire for him to go. We contacted every nursing home in 4 southern counties, and there was no place. So we really, really need a nursing home beds. And as far as the atmosphere, a lot of people need specialized care, you know, and he definitely did for a while, but a lot of people, that's where they're living now. They can't live alone. Maybe they physically can't do it, but it's their home. And so it should be a pleasant, homey place, not with a hospital atmosphere. So I think you need a modern plan. And as far as the homeless are concerned, we need a place for people who can't afford $1,000, $2,000 for a place to live. There is no housing for single people or few people who just don't have very much money. So I think the reuse of the building is very important. And it seems to me they're trying to be energy efficient, which I think is absolutely a requirement. So I'm just saying that I am in favor of a plan. It's very hard to discern the exact details in a quick look at the plans. I think I would replace a fancy lobby with some activity rooms for people to be able to get together and do things. And family rooms where people could get together. But anyway, thank you very much. And I hope that we do have this facility.
Thank you for appearing before us this evening. Good. Okay, so further testimony from public citizens. Come forward, Counselor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Fergus Cullen. I live at 152 Boxwood Lane, which is about a half a mile that way on the other side of the field. I'm also a city councilor in Dover. I happen to represent the ward that we're sitting in right now. I'm here to urge you to please hit the brakes pretty hard on this proposal. I think the fact that in just 3 months, the price has come down from 170 million to 139 million is evidence that it is not as well thought out as it could have, should have been. That the process has been rushed. There's been very, very little public input on this. We don't know how it will be paid for. With respect to the commissioner, they can't really promise that's not going to affect the 3 cities with tax caps. Can't really promise that. So I'm urging you to hit the pause button. Get more public input about what we need, what we can afford, and how we're going to pay for it. You need to put this project into perspective. It is the largest public project in the county of any sort, municipal, even bigger than anything that's been built at UNH. Whittemore Center, $30 million when that was built. The other biggest project that's been built, public project in the county, was Dover High School at 89 million. So whatever the price tag is, this is considerably bigger than that. It needs more time. It needs more thought. Now, I do believe that we need a modern nursing home to serve our local Medicaid eligible population. I'm not convinced that the county necessarily needs to run it. I don't think we need one that costs this much. Counties, let's remember, are in the nursing home business by historical accident. We are on County Farm Road. This is an outgrowth of the former county farm, a dormitory, a workhouse for the chronically poor. We might not have chosen to get into the nursing home business today if we were starting from square one. Now, this is not the 1920s, okay? I do believe that we need to have a nursing facility that's modern and that serves our residents who cannot live independently and cannot afford, private facilities. And we do owe this population a modern home with dignity, but that does not mean it needs to be on par with a private facility or a full pay facility. I also want to briefly talk about the idea of repurposing the existing Riverside for a permanent facility to serve the homeless. I have major concerns that a facility like this will become a magnet for people in need of services in a way that might have side consequences that we don't expect. I have compassion and empathy for people who are homeless. But if you think the county has a homeless problem now, wait until we have a permanent facility. This population is not merely down on their economic luck. The vast majority has significant substance abuse or mental health challenges. They are unemployed, unemployable, and chronically so. I have spent some time volunteering at Willen Pond shelter. My family has provided some meals for homeless people staying at the Garrison Hotel. I have empathy for this population. I'm open to a short-term, truly transitional facility where people can get just the services that they need to stabilize and move on. But let's be honest with one another and with the taxpayers of our county. We build a permanent transitional facility. It is only a matter of time before it becomes a permanent facility. And if that's not a decision you're willing to make tonight, we shouldn't slip down that slope with this kind of a vote. So I'm not opposed to a modern nursing home. I'm not opposed to transitional housing. I think the plan you're considering tonight needs to be thought through a lot more. I'm urging you not to pass the bond at this time. I'm urging you to instead keep working on these ideas, see if we can come up with a better plan, and let's reconsider it down the road. I appreciate your attention tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Colin.
Hi, my name is Kelly Catenza, Representative-elect Catenza, in 2 days. I actually just wanted to reiterate what one of the speakers said on Zoom, and the access, the transparency in this whole process has been pretty much none. I had to request an email to resend the proposal. I'm trying to get up to speed, and I just don't think that the numbers, they're not specific enough. my husband and I, we had a business, and the amount of information that we had to get a loan from the bank, nowhere near this amount, was unbelievable. We were just saying, okay, well, it's 170. Oh, now it's 140. And, you know, with interest and inflation and all of this kind of stuff, well, maybe it can't be like that. There has to be transparency. And I really don't believe that the public knows enough information at this point. I have a heart for our elderly, and yes, we have a duty. And I love everybody's testimony here. And there needs to be modern, and there needs to be, there doesn't have to be all the bells and whistles. We need to be able to take care of our elderly and have all of those things. But I believe that this is fast tracked, and I think that we should put this, I think that we should have more thought, and I think that everything should be online. All of this, all the numbers, just everything from the HVAC system. I mean, some of the reasons why we're doing this, you're saying there's no fresh air that's going on right now. There's no way that there could be no fresh air intake going on. I mean, we would kill all the elderly in there. So there's just a lot of misinformation, I think. And I really believe that we need to slow it down and do this in a thoughtful way.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. My name is Rick Peralt. I am known as Happy Husband. I'm a resident of Rochester. I'm a business owner here in Strafford County also. I just want to stand here before you. This is 139 million. Let me tell you, there's a lot of zeros after that 139. I got to tell you this is a lot of money. Now we have a 215 room facility now. Maybe can't be staffed enough to put more people, can't provide some service. $139 million somehow attached to the building that's there. Well, I believe you could build the 215 additional rooms for less than 139 million. Here's what I believe. We're talking about something that I do not believe that has to be done tonight. We have in 2 days a new delegation. I believe that delegation ought to be the one to make the decision, because I believe that there is a possibility, maybe everybody's already looked at it and I'm coming on late, but I believe that existing facility can, with the direction and leadership for the people that are in it, can be built in a manner for a lot less than 139 million. Let me tell you this, if you take and this is, and I appreciate a former speaker talking about the homeless, it's coming mental issues, drug issues, medical needs. We're not talking about, we're going to repurpose for something that's going to cost a fortune and not necessarily be even benefit to the people who go there. I believe that we need to let the next delegation figure out if in fact this new facility is in the best interest. Understand this, if you took $139 million for every single person who's ever going to go to the old facility in Riverside Restaurant, divide up the money for $139 million and pay those people's family after those people pass away, they'll never complain. And I believe you're going to have for all the years to be able to do this. This is $139 million. Now, understand this, it's $139 million. It will not be $139 million when you build it. It's never going to be. They have a thing in the government they call supplemental appropriations. I don't know who developed that name, but I can tell you this, they're going to come for more money, and you're not going to be halfway through the project and not be able to fund the rest of it. And the proposed revenue coming in is never as much as we pray and hope. I don't care how conservative you can get with that. This is not this delegation's time to do this. I honestly believe that if, in fact, the people were elected underneath this nursing home thing, let those people bring a proposal to us. It is not the interest of people in Strafford County to have it be acted on today. Thank you very much, and God bless you all.
Susan Rice, President of Rochester, New Hampshire. Transparency, the buzzword of the 2020s. What is transparency? According to the dictionary, one definition means free from pretense or deceit.
Let's take a stroll down memory lane when on August 16, 2022, the Rochester City Council had a quote-unquote special meeting, and the agenda was posted as a resolution to authorize the city manager to enter into an agreement with the city of Dover and the city of Somersworth to operate the emergency cold weather station on Woodland Drive. According to the approved minutes of this council meeting, we had several quote-unquote phantom guest speakers who were not listed as others present within our minutes. Those included Mayor Hilliard and Carrier, along with George McLaris, chairman of the Strafford County Board of Commissioners. Let me quote excerpts from the minutes of this Rochester City Council special meeting, where this topic of conversation was not posted and the public had no opportunity at our city to be aware of its discussion for the citizens of Rochester to ask any questions. Mayor Hilliard outlined a three-part plan being proposed. The first part would be constructing a state-of-the-art nursing home facility in Strafford County. Commissioner McLaris addressed the city council regarding the aging population of Strafford County and the future needs for this population. I don't disagree with him. We do need a nursing home. This is being rushed. He outlined the proposal to come before the Strafford County delegation in the near future and gave details of the project. Mr. McLaris, I was at that meeting and I was absolutely floored to hear the comments about a totally different subject uttered from your mouth. Frankly, I'm still waiting for you to attend an appropriately posted meeting in Rochester to advise your constituents of a countywide proposal which impacts everyone in Strafford County. By the way, no vote of support was ever taken by the Rochester City Council, nor was this topic of discussion on the agenda for the quote-unquote proposed special meeting for a state-of-the-art nursing home facility. Had you stuck around, followed the rules of procedure, and respected our city, you would have had your 5 minutes like the rest of us poor souls are granted under public comment in the workshop meeting held directly after this special meeting. The slip, as I call it, was intentionally used by the mayors of Rochester, Somersworth, and Dover, as well as our county leadership team to defraud the citizens of our right to know. The public's right to know what its government is doing is a fundamental part of New Hampshire's democracy. I have spoken about this many times at the Rochester City Council meetings. I will fast forward. Government, therefore, should be open, accessible, accountable, and responsive. To that end, the public's right of access to governmental proceedings and records should not be unreasonably restricted. I spent time yesterday and finally found stuff on the county website. And then to further, let me just back up. Then to further complicate matters, talk circulated that the city of Rochester had voted to support the proposed nursing home and use this motion as backup. Hate to disappoint you all, but the motion was not for the support of the nursing home. The motion was for the warming center and only the warming center. Deception does not make for good politics or government. When you make a mistake, own up, apologize, find common ground, and move on. Never lose the faith of the public and trust in the process. However, this county delegation seems to have issues with trusting in the process and the faith of the public. I am referring to the inability to access public meeting minutes within 5 business days. I understand that they are not approved. State statute allows you to post them on your website as draft. It has been several months since your August meeting, and it's finally on the agenda tonight to approve those minutes. By the way, isn't it convenient that the November meeting was only a workshop? It has been since August, over 3 months ago, that you have held a regular meeting. That is not acceptable. Now, in your November workshop meeting, which took me a few minutes to find, I found a set of plans which appear to have been revised, but those are still dated August 19th, 2022. The residents of Strafford County deserve a clear, concise, consistent, and easily understandable concept when it relates to a major expenditure such as a new nursing home. The concept within itself could be viewed as challenging and overwhelming to the average person. And when you add in 170 million price tag, or a suggested 150, and tonight I'm hearing $139 million price tag in this economy. Has this county delegation made every effort to inform, educate, and let its citizens know? Have you made every effort to meet with every municipality in Strafford County and prepare some sort of financial impact for each community? Or did this delegation just simply gloss over our smaller communities and only visit our cities and larger communities and apply? We had their full support for this project. I have another complaint in that when I was looking at the stuff on the website today, it was very difficult to read. I tried to copy and paste it, it would not work. I have printed them off, looked at them online, magnified them, and done everything in my power to read them, and it is absolutely impossible. I have to congratulate the brilliance of this plan and data on the website. A generic number was used without access to back up to construction costs. Then you arbitrarily decided to eliminate 20,000 square feet of program areas. I have a question about reducing the loop road to a one-way fire access lane. I would love to see the figures of reducing a 22-foot paved road to an access lane of only 12 feet. What is the difference between a paved road and an access lane? Are they built to the same standards of road base and pavement thickness? One wonders if this is another bait and switch, a word salad game, because in the end, with the cost of paving, will this be the same price for that product? If the quality of construction is diminished because it will only be used as a fire access lane, then I'm assuming no traffic, including delivery trucks, will be using this. So minimal wear and tear should be expected over its life expectancy. Soft cost figure of 14 million did not change, yet you have reduced the kitchen equipment by half. Those were in the notes underneath. And that should be $750,000 less than that line item alone. I'm assuming, as it is totally illegible, that only 500,000 was taken out. Is that being truthful? Can you explain the offsite costs? Under hard costs and under soft costs, there is two sections called impact fees. They are located on the summary project hard costs and yet again under soft project costs. This equals $1 million. What are those impact fees for? In addition, can you explain the $50,000 for a traffic study and what are the additional costs when it is determined that the roads leading into and out of this area are substandard? It would make more sense to me to spend the money upfront on a project of this size and obtain a full range picture of what is necessary in this immediate area with regards to our roads. I just want to congratulate you once again on comparing apples, oranges, and bananas with current cost comparisons. You took 3 projects, this one included, and tried to compare construction costs. Common sense will tell you that building the new municipal complex, including a new corrections facility in Rockingham County, cannot be compared to a nursing home, nor can a nursing home be compared to a hospital. Lastly, how can you state your intention to deliver and operate this project within the property tax cap? And in the next paragraph, use the word supplemental appropriations. As to Mr. Brawl stated, where did supplemental appropriations come from? If you did your job, then why would you need a supplemental appropriation? There is an awful lot of explanation to do. And I sincerely request that you take your time, you postpone your vote tonight, and you do your homework. We've already sharpened the pencil and got it down to 139. And I think that if we sharpen the pencil just a little bit more, we can make something that everybody will feel comfortable and live with. And this is in no way a slam that I am against a new nursing home. I am fully aware that this is something that this county definitely needs. Thank you.
Hi, sorry, I'll be quick. I just wanted to point out that this seems like a really good idea, but there are fundamental thoughts that have not been thought through, even down to the homeless shelter. You cannot, I love helping people, you cannot put a homeless shelter next to a place that has narcotics coming in and out through delivery drivers and nurses who do not have people to protect them. Eventually, you will have drug addicts wanting to seek out medications, and to have these places right next to each other, in theory, sounds beautiful, but I do not think it's been a fully thought out plan. I think it needs a little bit more time to fully break down the numbers and to see what can actually be done. So I think it sounds good, but I do think this needs a lot more thought. Thank you.
It's the lady who spoke a moment ago, from written document, could provide that to us, that would be appreciated.
I, Wally Stevens, 71 years old, resident for 71 years in Dover. I'm a goer, I'm a doer. I take it by the balls and I take it to where it goes. I'm all for this 100%. I'm elderly. I watched my great-grandfather, my grandfather, my aunt and uncles, my sisters, and everybody go into these facilities and they do their best. They do their best, but it's not, back in the old days, it was broke. Not too bad now. 100%, I don't care how much it costs. Everybody has opinions in this. And you're never gonna get everybody to get on board. This is an important factor. I don't care what it costs. Stop figuring we gotta cut this, we gotta do this, we gotta do that. Been in that problem too many times. I was in a small group of 9 people with the homeless. We started in churches, sleeping on the floors, hustling food, going and getting donations. They got a new warming facility, kind of buried off. I can't do it. I go to the encampments to the people and help them out. I don't want no great job at doing that or anything. I'm not worried about it, but this is an important facility. We need it really bad. And I'm sick and tired of hearing people give a negative aspect. We can do it better than this. We can cut this. We can do that. I put my faith in all you elected officials. I back it up 100%. I'm on limited income and I don't care if my taxes go up. They go up every year. Big deal. But we need this. Do it. And I hope the ones who say nay to this will know you don't get faced with getting in a home. You don't get faced with taking one of your loved ones in a home that don't have no place to go. We need it. We need it bad. Vote yes, get it done. And get the facility for the unsheltered in the old facility that they're using now in Riverside. They are drug addicts, mentally challenged. Don't be afraid of them because they're totally, you get the wrong opinion of them. Right? So go for it, 100% back up. Don't listen to these other people who think they got better ideas, because I guarantee they don't do the groundwork themselves. They just get on their keyboard. Do it. Thank you.
Anyone else? You speak? Anyone else? As called. Good evening. Please identify yourself.
Hello, Jessica LaMontagne of Dover. I just want to comment about the transitional shelter, the repurposing of the old nursing home. I think that's the most brilliant part of the whole plan. And I think it's terribly needed. If we build this shelter, it won't actually make these problems come to Dover. We already have a big problem with homelessness. And the transitional shelter will really help people move on. It doesn't make them become permanently homeless, which I think was suggested earlier. So, and the other comments about having homeless people too close to the nursing home, they're actually, from my perspective, they're going to be a lot closer to the county jail, and I don't really think that security is going to be a big problem. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, in respect to the transparency that one of our other speakers was speaking up, would you let us know what's just happened to you?
Oh,
Jessica is the newly elected representative from Dover for the House of Representatives.
Thank you.
She'll be
So I'll be
sworn in.
And I need to get a little more practice in public speaking.
You're doing good.
But
Well, Mr. Chair and everybody else, my name is Michael Granger. I'm the new I'm a rep-elect in Milton. I think that we definitely need to hit the brakes on this. It sounds as though it is being pushed through sort of quickly. And if we're gonna have new state reps that want to weigh in on it, coming in, we have that opportunity down the road. It seems kind of unfair to make a vote, then you leave, and you don't have to deal with the consequences of it. You know, it's not that long, we have to wait. Why not just wait a little bit? That's all I have to say.
I'm Louise Bay. I'm a newly elected representative, and I also live in this ward. I live about a couple of miles from here. It's such a privilege to grow old. I'm a 3-time breast cancer survivor. So for those who are saying, slow it down, can we tell the old people to slow down the aging process also?
Anyone else to speak? Yes, we have James. Who's the public here? Well, I now open the delegation meeting with regard to what we've heard up to this point. And I'm sure there's some questions or observations. There is a chance to be heard. Representative Soloway, recognized. Representative Powell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to thank Representative who mentioned cost effectiveness as a key issue in the design of such a facility. I'd also like to thank Representative Bixby for pointing out that the major cost of this facility is not in capitalization, it's going to be in operations. You're looking at operations for a facility that will last 50 years. And it is imperative that that facility be designed around cost effectiveness to reduce operational costs. I am not an expert in capitalization. However, as former chairman, health management policy at your University of New Hampshire, I am an expert in operations. And if you take a look at what our operational costs are going to be over the next 50 years, anything that we can build today under capitalization that will reduce operational costs over the next 50 years will pay back dramatically. A number of years ago, I had a large grant to take a look at the operation of all of the counties in the United States with regard to healthcare. I went to Washington, I went to the National Association of Counties, I got into the database, and I want to tell you that this county is superb at being cost effective in terms of its operations. We don't get any better. We're really good at it. I think that while this is an expensive proposition, I understand that. I think that in the long run, we will gain back everything that we put into a first-class facility.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, I did recognize you as next, so that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've heard tonight several times. Why do we need to push this through now? This is rushed. Let's wait. It sounds like something I've heard before. So we've had several months since this came before the delegation. What's changed? Well, first of all, we have a new price. We have a price that addresses what some of us have asked for on both sides of the aisle. We have clarity around costs. We have a better understanding of what the facility would bring for the residents. We have better understanding on timelines. I think that the county commission, I think that the county administrator have done everything we've asked them to do. I think they've come back with a project that hits all the right notes while shaving costs. And I think this is a great project. I do have two questions for the county commissioners or for Ray Bauer, if they're willing to take them. One, if we get additional funding from the state Does the language of the authorization hamstring us to reducing the bond allocation, or could that be used to address some items that were taken off that could then be re-added? And secondly, I wonder if you could address a question that's come up several times tonight. Capacity of the facility. You and I have discussed this, Ray. Can you please clarify for those here why the cap at the nursing home is what it is?
Sure, I'll answer your first question. No, if additional funding becomes available, the county cannot spend that money without, or, by adding to the project without permission of the delegation. So the county cannot spend any money beyond what the delegation authorizes for it to spend. That's the answer to your first question. The answer to your second question is, so let me further answer that. You can use that money to reduce the bond, as we've heard from the reading of the motion, but it can't be used to expand the project. That's thing number one. Thing number two is the reason that currently we're just looking at 215 beds is you all and the legislature have capped. DHHS has recommended, and you have repeatedly over the last 15 years, capped the number of nursing home beds that are allowed in the state. So that's a decision of the legislature to cap the number of beds. So we can't exceed 215.
Representative Bixby.
Yes, so I'd like to get back to a point that in John Haskett wanted his presentation. One of the things that I'm not quite clear, it's clear that there will be more revenue in the future in the new home than in the current home because of the design. How much revenue would we be losing by going from the 170 million plan down to the 140 million plan?
I can't tell you exactly. I can tell you that is mostly designed as future space. And I guess the best example I can give you is the House of Correction. Some of you were on the delegation when we built the House of Correction. There was a lot of back and forth that went on about the size of it, or how we were going to pursue the system. Well, we pursued the system, and in fact, it turned out a lot better than we thought it was, than I predicted it was going to, or that what I had assured the delegation. I assured the delegation that we were going to take enough boarders in to retire the bond issue. I can tell you that we've paid for that jail 4 times over in the number of years that it's been built, based on the construction costs. So we tried to give you our assurances that we wouldn't exceed the tax cap. Well, clearly that wasn't adequate, and I understand that. So instead, we tasked for Brianna to spend countless hours at showing you a presentation tonight about how we would meet the cost of the bond in the future, just like we did at the jail. And people said, "Oh, you're building the jail too big. You're building the jail too big." Well, the fact that we built the jail the size that we did build it has brought us in, since we opened the jail, an average of $6 to $9 million a year in boarding revenue that we would have never had we built the jail to the size that we needed right then. So I can tell you more specifically that the cutting of the size of the building, particularly eliminating the basement areas, was our answer that we gave for the jail. For those of you that might have said, "What do you think about the future?" You're talking about building a 50-year nursing home, and the proof is we have a 50-year nursing home now. We want you to build. If we wanted to come forward with another 50-year nursing home, you won't have it if you build just what you have. By making it, yes, we would make it more staff efficient. We would make it cheaper to heat the pool. Well, actually, that's not true. We don't have any cooling in the existing nursing home. We have no air conditioning.
And when we talk about air exchange, we're talking about better heating. So that like snow doesn't blow through the windows. And we put blankets there to, to make sure it doesn't blow into the rooms. I mean, that's what we're talking about with air exchange, that we're currently facing, that we wouldn't be facing in a new facility. So I think that the difference between, let's just be honest. We cut the number from 170 to 139 because we didn't have the votes. Okay, I mean, let's just be honest and say it. If we thought we had the votes, we'd be continuing with the 170 million. We think that that's the best interest of the county. But if we don't have the votes, then 170 is worthless because we have nothing. And the 139 is better. We have to think about our residents. We have to think about the residents that we have now and that will be coming to us in the future. And rather than walk away from this at 170 and say, oh, we need 170, never mind. We cut the facility back to replace what we currently have with the hopes that we'll convince some of the no votes to vote yes. It's just that different.
So are we essentially turning a $50-year building into a 25-year building?
At the very best, it would be 25. I think it'd be more likely that it'd be a 10 or 15-year building. Because remember, we're not giving up the concept of trying to keep people at home. Okay, that's the key. We can't afford to care for everybody that's going to be of age that needs care. We all know that. The numbers are breathtaking. In 20, 25 years, we have triple the number of people that are 65 and over, which are the people that tend to need nursing home care at the rate of, say, 5 or 6% of those people will be in a nursing home at one time or another. So we cut back on the size of the facility. And by the way, the 20,000 feet, the 20,000 square feet that we would look at cutting from the operational piece will mostly come out of the laundry. Because as you know, the jail does our linen. So we wouldn't need the same size laundry as a comparable facility. So, the 20,000 isn't just some nebulous number. It's a number mostly related to, to laundry. We have a small laundry now that does residents' personal clothes, but our linen and linen for Wentworth Douglas and linen for other places is done at the jail. So that's where the majority of the 20,000 people come. So I'm not sure I totally answered your question.
I think the key thing is that for $30,000 less, we get a building that lasts 15 years, maybe 20 years.
That we'd be lucky if it ever lasted 20 years. Okay. And that would, it'd be a lot easier for me, right? I'm not gonna be here 20 years from now. I'm fortunate if I'm gonna, continue to work till this building is completed. I mean, that's kind of the deal I have with the commissioner. But, it'd be a lot easier for me to stand here and say, hey, $139 million, we're all set, it'll take care of everything forever. But as one of the previous speakers meant, that'd be the most disingenuous thing I've ever said. And I could say it and then go back, live in Somersworth and, with my wife and I'd be retired but that's not the issue. We're not giving you what we talked about. And if you're okay with that, and that's what you need to vote on something, it's better than the terrible situation we're in now in a building was no good 20 years ago for providing optimum care and optimum staffing. And just to speak one more second about what Professor Soloway said, and I say that fondly because he was one of my professors through my time. When you build, and we learned this from the jail, when you build something, the cost of that over 20 years is 10% of the building. The other 90% is running and staffing. It's so certainly well taken that if, you know, it enhances our efficiency to operate, and the things we can do to enhance our efficiency, not only will make the building last longer, but it's actually in the long run, not the first year or the first 5 years, but in the long run, of the life of the building, it's cheap.
Representative Levesque.
So, like many people out there, I've had to care for my Nana, so, like many people out there, I've had to care for a family member of my own, and she's been in and out of hospitals, nursing homes, things like that. She was the strongest person that I knew in those facilities. She was very brave. Her biggest fear was the railings, specifically ones that would hit corners, because she didn't know if she could reach that corner. And I never seen her so scared, but at that corner, her hand would shake, she would get shaky, and she would grab onto me or my mom or my dad to reach that corner. If it was an oval, she would go up and down those hallways faster than most of the nurses have seen.
The other part of the concept of it being old is if you think of, and there's no such thing, but if you think of a person who is challenged by dementia of any kind. I mean, everybody says Alzheimer's. Well, Alzheimer's is only one portion of the dementia population. But if you think of those people, a lot of them walk continuously. And the thought of having an oval is to support their ability instead of coming to a corner and coming to a locked door and then shaking that door or being directed away from that door and around again to what? The other door at the other end of the L. So the concept of the oval is well, about Representative Gruen, a lot smarter than I am when it comes to building. But it's not just, I mean, the design of the oval wasn't just about aesthetics or more money or less money. It was to fit in with the concept of the dementia population that we've spoken so many times about caring.
And even people that have trouble walking, is just helpful for them to get around that oval versus corner.
Thank you. I hope I answered your question, Representative.
You already had your chance for the first time. Somebody else who hasn't heard. Representative Turco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to echo a few of the points that some of the individuals in the audience echoed. Some of the same points I made several months ago at our the first time this was attempted to be rushed through. I do see this as being rushed through. This body has a fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayers of this county. We have been presented an option. Started at 170 million, now they're saying it's 139, maybe 150. All of the discussion that we have heard has been, this is it. Everything that we're talking about is off this one issue, one option. Where's the option for renovation of the first building? Now,
Talk about that.
Yeah. Wait a minute, he's got the floor. Let him speak.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. Renovations. Now, we've heard over and over how many times that building is a problem because of asbestos. Yet, we're also being told that that's the second leg of this stool, which, by the way, we are not really discussing here tonight. How many times, how many individuals in that building, and this is rhetorical, so I don't want an answer. How many individuals in that building over the years have had medical issues related to the asbestos that's contained within the walls of that building?
Well, let's get.
Have we-
Let you ask a question.
No, I said it's a rhetorical question. That means I don't want an answer. The second part is, we were not given an option of an expansion. What did Sullivan County do? Sullivan County expanded their facility. How long did it take Sullivan County to go through a process involving their delegation to complete their expansion, not a brand new $170 or $139 million? I'll say it because I've said it before, a Taj Mahal of a nursing home. We've been given less than 6 months to look at this. I thank Brianna for her numbers. We saw that a few days ago for the first time. I don't know about anybody else around this table, but I'm in the financial business and it takes me a lot longer than a couple days to weed through the numbers in here. Again, based off of $140 million project. We have not been given any other options. It has been rushed. A couple of the individuals talked about transparency. Lack of proper notification, lack of involvement with this delegation that we should have been involved with. It has been rushed. And that is the reason why I cannot vote for this, because it's a fiduciary responsibility. We need proper time, we need proper options before we can actually vote to go forward with a $139 million project. Thank you.
Okay, Representative Groves.
Well, could I just answer one?
Yeah, we actually.
I just one question.
One piece about Sullivan County, you do understand, right, that it's 2/3 our size.
Mr. Chairman,
I'm sorry, I just wanted
Mr.
to.
Chairman, I didn't ask for a question. I did not ask for an answer.
Point of order, point of order. That doesn't. Point of order. That doesn't mean that an answer is not appropriate.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna let.
Thank
you. The county administrator, who's been doing this for like 30 years and has some answers to some of the questions. Whether you wanted the answer or not, I'm gonna ask you to give the answer.
I simply wanted to say that when you're comparing the numbers between the two facilities, you have to account for the fact that it's less than 2/3 our size. So to compare the $73 million that they're putting in, and you look at the $139, which, by the way, does nothing for the future, simply replicates and what they have. So it's most comparable to the $139 million. It's not a disproportionately different number if you did it based on the bed size. That's all I wanted to say.
So Representative Gruen, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So first of all, I am in favor of pursuing the concept of a new nursing home. I do not think it's a good idea to take out the 80,000 square feet of unfinished space for future expansion space. I do not think it's a good idea to change the perimeter road to 11 feet instead of 22 feet. I think that's short-sighted. I think that we should have a space that meets modern medicine requirements. It is the most efficient for the dollar. One of the people that talked via the Zoom said that we should do the most efficient space we can. I agree with that. I agree that our current facility does not meet the needs of our residents for long term. However, the approval we're being asked for is, first of all, to review and approve construction plans for new nursing home. We do not have construction plans for a nursing home. We heard testimony tonight that we were going to take out the unfinished space. We were going to eliminate the center space in the middle, straighten the walls. We do not have plans to approve. If I went to a bank with that for approval, they would laugh at me. We don't have plans to approve.
We're not approving the plans.
That's what's on the agenda, so that's what I was bringing up. Well, so we do not have construction plans to approve. Now, there's been a lot of talk about postponing or delaying the process. I am not suggesting we postpone or delay the process at all. Our architect said that the plans will take 12 to 18 months to complete. That's pretty consistent with my experience in construction. What my suggestion is that the county delegation meets after the new delegation comes in, but then you won't have to listen to me anymore, because I won't be part of it.
Used to, you could.
Except that I might be talking on that side. But what I'm suggesting is you present to the new county delegation a plan to approve the funds for design development plans, and that would include substantially complete civil plans, a geotech study, all the necessary work that's required to get a good bid on the project. Approve that. It won't delay the project by more than the time from now to that meeting. At that point, you can then proceed with the plans. And that has to happen anyway, so it's not gonna delay your project. I'm in favor of this. I think it's needed. I think the process is not good. It's not complete at this point. So in good conscience, I can't vote for a project that we do not even have plans on paper that are complete. Design development plans go far beyond the simple concept plans that we have. You can't bid a project on simple concept plans that we have. You can estimate it. You can't begin to bid it. And we should not be voting for $150 million bond without bids. The $7 million of inflation contingency, that's going to be used up between now and July of next year if construction costs anywhere go to what is expected. So my urging is to take this step by step, approve the necessary funds. And by the way, I'm a firm believer that the architect and the design team is an essential part of the process. If you short circuit that process, the project's gonna cost more money. I'm a firm believer. So what the funds that it takes to get through design development plans that then it shows the different room styles, etc. You can go with that. I believe there is a more efficient way to build this building. It might not be quite as pretty. I believe there's a way of solving the problem of corners without building an oval building. Building is expensive. This is an expensive building to build. So with those things, I think that that's the process that should be used. Now, there was a lot of talk about this being a partisan decision. I want to point out that this process of bringing us to this point has not been a bipartisan process. We as Republicans were not included in that in any way, shape, or form. And I think we shouldn't. And my suggestion here is that there is a building committee that is established, that has at least one member from the Democrat part of the delegation, one member from the Republican part of the delegation, 2 or 3 members from the public, one appointed by Democrats and one appointed by Republicans. They review this process with the architect, with the commissioners as it goes along. And by the way, I commend Commissioner McGlaris on his vision. He is right, we're going to need. Another thing that I believe is needed here, this site needs to have expansion space for at least a 1/3, if not a 50% increase in capacity. If we don't have that built into the site, we will work ourselves out of a facility that's going to meet our future needs. I am not against the new nursing home. I am for it. I am against going with this process when we do not have complete plans to even vote on. And we need to get to that point. For that reason, I am voting no on bond because we are not ready for it, but I would urge the commissioners to bring this back before the delegation to get going on the plans and don't delay. So the process, the whole process is not delayed. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, I appreciate your remarks. Because for one thing, you're a builder. You understand this way better than probably all of us put together. In terms of the technical aspects involved. But you're also speaking to somebody who doesn't have an axe to grind because he didn't get reelected. How that hell that happened, I still haven't figured out.
I have a team, by the way.
What?
I have a team.
But the bottom line is that we're kind of at loggerheads here, so I'm gonna ask Commissioner Blair. I don't see that there's a hell of a lot of purpose in proceeding without hearing from you at this point, whether there is an alternative along the lines of what the representative is talking about. Because I disagree with you to some degree that the Republicans haven't been involved. It's just as public for you as it is for us, and we've kicked this around in a number of different ways. And you hogtied us a couple of months ago with a couple of votes that prevented the bonding from going forward so that we could develop all the product, the design, do the drilling and boring and testing and so on and so forth. But we're here where we are, and there's a lot of wisdom in this group and knowledge. That's one of the reasons that I wanted to have this meeting and to have this not knockdown, drag out fight, but to push the process further. That's always been my objective in the legislature, is trying to make things a little bit better. And so, George, what do you got?
Well, I think that to somewhat appease folks now, instead of taking a formal vote, Mr. Chairman, why don't we just have a show of hands of how many folks? This is time to make sausage, folks. This is politics, okay? It's time to make sausage. I hear everything that Representative Bruin's saying. I don't disagree with you. There's a couple of things going on. Number one, whether it's $170 million proposal, $139 million proposal, we wouldn't be borrowing that money for years from now. Don't you hear me? We would be borrowing that money for years. Okay? I still believe firmly and wholeheartedly, and so do my colleagues, that the $170 million option we put in front of you was a long-term proposition for our county to last us 50 years, based on the demographics studies that were done by New Hampshire regional planning commissions. Everyone has told us this. I served for 25 years. 25 years as chairman of the State and County Finance Committee, where we discussed this very thing starting back in 1997. I co-chaired that committee. You remember that? Okay. Where I've been through nine commissions of health and human services discussing the very issue of county government's role in the Medicaid system. It has been determined by both Republican and Democratic administrations over that 25-year period that county nursing homes are essential, not only to add to create the ultimate safety net for our population, but to also allow the private sector to make a profit. Those that are in the private sector nursing home business. And this is not George Ballard's talking about. This is studies that have been going on since 1970. 1970. So with that set aside, I still firmly believe, and the Board of County Commissioners believe, the $170 million option is the best option. Now, the reason why we had the $170 million figure, because it was a concept, and we were giving construction estimates. But I do agree with that. I do agree that it's going to take us 18 months to 2 years just to design this. The cost associated with that, I'll give you the exact number. Okay,
It's $6,261,184. That's the estimate that we got. Okay, to design the project. To be able to bring it to bid. So, but we don't have $6,261,000. Even though the delegation voted, the initial vote was to spend $170 million. We had no way of paying for that. Legitimately. And it's gonna cost us that number I just gave you. In order to come up with bid documents to design a facility that's number one, staff efficient, long-term, which goes to the point that Ray made before, just like we did with the jail. Staff efficient. It has to meet our medical needs now and in the future. It doesn't make any sense to build a building that doesn't meet our medical needs for the future. It's as simple as that. It's just as simple as that. But we need $6,251,184 to get to the point that Representative Rowan is talking about. So, and if you vote for the 170, that you're on the 140, we won't be borrowing that money anyway for a very long period of time, at least 2 years out. Probably 22 months. A lot of things can change in 22 months. We'll be going through another whole election cycle before this plan would even, this project would even go out to bid. We're gonna be in another full election cycle. So I would love to have you a show of support and vote for $170 million. I think that's our long-term interest. Short of that, we need $6,261,184 to design the facility. If we design it, we won't lose any time. I agree with you. We design it. We put it out to bid, and then we come back to the county delegation then. As a result of that design, if you want a building committee, we are 100% in favor of that. I think it ought to be a bipartisan approach. But I also think for my Democratic friends, okay, we're not losing anything by following this process. We don't lose any time because we're not going to borrow the money until we can out the bid anyway. We might learn something between now and then. Whatever outstanding questions my good friends on the other side of the aisle have, I don't care whether it's geothermal, I don't care whether it's solar, whether it's natural gas. We will have done the legwork necessary because I'll have the money to go do the site prep. We will do the borings. We will have all that information and work with the building committee and form the delegation as we move forward in that process. So we could do that.
The soil, we think we know something about the soil, the area, but we would be damn fools to assume that that because the land here is good, that the land right next to it is the same.
You pull geotech that.
So we gotta do the borings, we gotta do look for the geothermal potential and all this other kind of stuff that's been discussed. So Representative Bixby, you got a question or what?
What do we need to do procedurally to go with the second suggestion about providing just the money for the design, the 6 million?
Procedurally, you would take the motion that was offered. Okay, you can amend it. You would amend it to this number. Okay, the language all stays the same. Just amend it to this number so that we can move forward. That's what you procedurally can do, or you could vote that number up and down. Motion right now is for 150 million. It can be subject to amendment. You can amend it to 170. Have a roll call. See how you feel. You can go to the 139 figures and amendment. I mean, those are all things that you can do.
Representative Smith.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Yes, I have two questions. One actually is for current representative room within this. What do you think the Democrats on this delegation were privy to that you weren't?
I think that when I'm talking about the process, I think that way before August, if this had involved members of the delegation,
I'm not.
Okay, because what I would say, from my perspective, and maybe I'm completely off base, is I don't think the Democrats do anything major.
Okay, well,
But I want to ask the commissioner, who's been waiting all evening for what all the question I was going to ask. And I don't want to disappoint. So here it is. Can you explain to the delegation why we thought it was so important 29 hours before our term ends to have this meeting rather than wait?
I'll be really well with you. Are we all set? Can I?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. Some members who are leaving wanted the opportunity to vote. And because we've invested, and I don't know if you'll specifically remember that you asked me in one of the previous meetings and about timing of this. And I said to you that we've invested countless hours with this current delegation. And we were going to bring this delegation back for a vote one way or the other. And a number of members who are leaving the delegation wanted the opportunity to be heard. I mean, I guess it's just that simple. That's why.
Representative Herring.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner, just to clarify then, you're talking about this 6,200,000 something or other, that number. Are you proposing that be raised as a bond or just for general taxation?
It would be the motion that was provided to the delegation by bond counsel, okay, indicates that we have the ability, you would be granting us permission to bond that money.
So the bond this, they handed out 170 million.
No,
that number.
well, if don't get confused. If you vote for the 170 million, we're not certainly going to borrow that right away. Okay, if you vote for 139, we're not borrowing that right away. We would only borrow what we need to get us to the point with the cash flow, because we're not going to borrow that money all upfront. We would be advised by bond counsel when the best point would be to bond the entire project. They would advise us on that based on what's going on with current interest rates. So this 6.2 would be a bond, but can be converted. It has we have the ability and the power in that resolution to convert, add other revenue sources to it as an example. Okay, for the future, because it authorizes us to be able to go after whatever money we can to offset the cost of the project.
But as far as the total cost, you wouldn't be authorized to spend
No.
6.2.
That's correct.
We came back and.
And then we came back and had a policy vote in the county delegation with the plan, whatever that plan is. You'd have, there would be no more ambiguity, you'd have construction costs, you'd have a bid document, you would know what the bids are. You know what you're gonna be getting for your money, and that doesn't mean necessarily you don't accept it, but that's where we are.
Representative Grass.
Yeah, one of the questions I had, and dealing, relating to the $6 million that's looking for construction. Design. Is that if you approve the resolution that's before us with $150 million, would that set us up in a much better situation as far as getting other grants are concerned and be able to pay for that $6 million out of other grants? Because I think that was one of the things we brought before, at least the executive committee at one point in time, that if we would approve the 170 million or the $150 million, that there was money out there that we could have gotten at the first phase, that we would have gotten $20 million or $25 million. And instead of having to go out for a bond for the $6 million and then go out for another bond later on, that we would be able to pay for it out of the grant money that came in. We would get all this work done with grants. And then we would go to the construction after we got that information, we would finalize everything, go out to things. So, you know, it was a much better way to do it. I mean, I'm certainly not going to oppose bonding almost $7 million in order to get these studies done. But it seems almost, if we decide after we spend the $7 million and we've got a new delegation here and they decide for 2 new delegations, that they decide, we don't want to do this, we want to spend. I think one of the estimates we had was just redoing the old home was between $50 and $70 million. Get the asbestos and air handling and everything out of the old building, and having no new one the one we currently have, one shower for every 42 people. And spending $50+ million to do that. That by approving the resolution we have before us tonight for the full amount, it would make it easier for us to get other state and possibly federal grants to cover this cost instead of bonding the money with no guarantee that anything could ever happen.
Don't forget, one of the authorization aspects that we did vote to do a month or so ago was to proceed with the application for that state money that was looking at $20 to $25 million. That we had to get the application in quick, remember? That was the talk about rush, was to get something that would authorize us to apply for.
But not having a firm commitment from the county basically prejudiced that bid of ours, and we lost it. If we had had a firm commitment from the county, we would have had that $55 million.
Well, there were a lot of unanswered questions that are still unanswered until we do those borings and soil testings, and until we have a design that can be bid out. But can we get something done tonight that makes sense, that we can get a bipartisan vote that will start us down the road to do those drillings and bondings and so forth and so on. Representative Trulevin, had your hand up for a while.
Chair, I appreciate you recognizing me. I have a question and a comment. My comment is that I think this has been a pretty valuable meeting, although it's been long. I'm sorry I missed the workshop session we had before. And I think all of us in the room, delegation members, members of the public, commissioners, everybody else, mayors, has realized that, we've had a failure to communicate. And we have not been speaking to one another about what the ultimate goal is. And in my business, my philosophy is it's a win-win situation. You want to do one thing, I want to do something, and it's going to be a win-win for both of us. And that's what this is going to be for all of us. But we, specifically, we have not been talking to each other, nor have we been talking to the public and letting them really know what's going on. We've been hiding our great architects and our hard construction people under a bushel. And people have waited until they're here at a delegation meeting to say what their problem is, rather than call someone else up and say, here's my problem, will you help me, what can I do? And then maybe present something more coalesced than just their one private little problem. My question is, how many steps are there between the love that George McGlare is saying we need $6 million and some odd dollars, and us saying yes to the nursing home being finished? How many steps are in there that the delegation has to say yes or no?
One more. You vote tonight, and then you put together a bipartisan committee. You work with the architect, work with the commissioners. I presume it includes staff at the nursing home, and hopefully that bipartisan committee brings back a recommendation to a future delegation, which might be the next delegation, or it might be the delegation after, depending on how long that goes. Is the answer to your question.
Thank you.
Peter.
Cliff.
Yes, isn't it interesting how one person brings up a little different deal or concept and everybody's ready to jump on board tonight? Because that's what I see is happening. Now, we could, I like the idea of sending. I don't like it being dumped on me tonight and saying, let's vote. We're gonna go from 139 million, we're gonna vote 6 million tonight. We still don't actually know what we're voting on, but it's a lot less, and supposedly everybody will be okay with that. I'm not okay. It's too much dumping. I like the direction that we're going in. But you're dumping on this on us tonight. Now, there's a whole lot to discuss. One of the big things is who's paying for the new nursing home. And I heard a lot of crap about somebody who said your county budget could go up 30%, the county tax. If we go forward with this, and all that's poo-poo, that's not gonna happen. Well, let me share with you folks. We've got a Rochester county portion of the tax bill. The notice today, it's gone up 10%. With no 150, 170 million for new nursing home added to it. Gone up 10%. Milford, in 2021, their county portion of the tax bill was 240. 2022, it's 290. That's gone up more than 21%, but it doesn't matter because these surrounding towns don't have a tax cap. Bologna, it doesn't matter, it's still money out of their pocket. And we haven't seen the new tax bill that they're getting. So to say that, that couldn't happen, I disagree with that. Because there's gonna be a lapse between when the new nursing home with all this IFCOM comes to fruition and the payments start coming in for the bond. So I could support the idea of saying, let's do this the best that we can as a delegation that will be here in 2 days. All of us here that again now won't be here in 2 days. We've done a good job to get this far. Well, let's set up a idea of steps. And clearly what Fenton has offered won't really slow this down, but it'll take away probably 80% of the questions that concerned residents, concerned delegates like myself, who will always look after the taxpayers, they can be addressed. And it may come down to we can't really afford to, when we look at the 10 towns that don't have tax caps and are around and still an equal part of the county. So, well, we're just gonna vote on something. You want something, let's vote on something. Let's vote on bonding 139 million. And then let's go to say, let's work up the steps because Commissioner McGlaris is right, Ray's right. 2 years, it could be a whole different delegation. But in that time, if we go forward, it really won't slow it down, and the next delegation can have the vote to go forward how they choose to do it. But you know, it's just, we all pretty much know we probably need a new nursing home. But here you go, we've gone from 130 million to dump it to 6 million, and you're telling us to vote on that tonight. 6 million, that's 6 million.
Representative Harrington.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had a question. I mean, that number is obviously very specific. It's not, you're not saying, Commissioner, you're not saying around $6 million or 6 to 7. You have a very detailed number there, which makes me believe that somewhere behind that number, there's a detailed plan that's going to lay out exactly what we get for 6.284 million, whatever it is. The only problem is we haven't seen it yet. And what I would suggest.
Well, I haven't seen it yet. Nobody's seen it because we've got to spend the money.
Somebody came up with a figure, an estimate of a figure and says, if you give me this amount of money, this is what I'll give you back. Okay, it's not just general construction plans. I'm sure there's more than just, we'll give you $62 million, and you give us full construction plans. I'm assuming there's gonna be 10, 20 pages of details that's gonna say what it is you're buying is $6.2 million. All my suggestion is you give it that. Give us, so we can look at that now.
Let's answer that question.
Let me answer the question. Yeah, right. Well, the bottom line is $6.2 million is in the $139 million.
Right, I understand.
Yeah, it's in there, okay? All I was stating is that, number one, we don't have this cash on hand.
Right.
Okay, if we did, we would just go hire the architect and let you know we get the cash on hand, we'll pay for it. So this number was presented to me by the architect. I wanted to know from him specifically what it would cost to bring this project to bid.
Okay, instruction documents, they'll be hundreds of pages thick, it'll be this thick by the time we get that, okay? So, and this is the number he gave you, he's sitting right behind you, he can explain it.
Maybe you can make myself more clear, I'm sorry.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that this number came up with, the architect gave you this number.
Correct.
So if we were to approve this, there would have to be some type of a purchase order or a
Right.
something. What would that state? What are we buying specifically for our $6.2 something million? And those are the specifics that we haven't seen. And that's what I'd like to see before I vote on it.
Can we get the answer to that question?
The architect's right here.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, let's.
Let Fed ask this question.
Okay, so the question isn't what, getting that information right now. We have a new delegation coming in less than 2 days, day and a half. If you schedule a meeting with proper notice, you can meet in another 10, 15 days, whatever it is. Bring that to the new delegation with the information that we're about to be brought tonight, which again, there's too much information as Cliff said, it's too much information to process. Bring it back to the new delegation. The new delegation is gonna own this. And so you can schedule a meeting that quick and bring that information back. I did have one question of George. I'm assuming that the 6.2 million is money we would spend if we approve the whole budget. The same money. We're not spending more money. It's just a part of it. We're doing a single step of the project. I urge us to do that, not us, you, because you are gonna be here. Call another delegation meeting. This is too much to spring and just dump that. So I think it's the next delegation's responsibility to carry that forward.
Well, 11 of us won't be here, that's for sure. 11 of us will not be here. There will have to be a range more people that take their place that don't know anything about this. Okay.
My hand has been up a lot, and just because he's tall. I'm questioning if there's anything tonight that 2/3 of us can agree on. But I'd like to second his motion or his idea that I think those are the steps. I just don't know if we're gonna do them tonight. I think a more detailed description of the 6 million might very well be able to pass as soon as we can meet in January. Again, we're not gonna ask the new delegation to go through all of the things we go through. We're just gonna ask them, can we do this first step?
I'd rather do something tonight.
So would you do a roll call?
Yes.
How many support that?
That's what voting is all about.
Well,
Do we have a proposal that
After straw vote here. Then someone just wanted.
Go ahead.
I just want to make a comment. So there is a motion on the paper, whether you agree with it or not, or whether you want to amend it or not. And I think we should probably do something for that. There is going to be a new delegation in 2 days. There's going to be another new delegation 2 years from now, and there's going to be another new delegation 2 years from now. And we're going to give the delegation 2 days from now, maybe is the design part. And it will more than likely be the following delegation that would get into the next bond. So, you know, the administrator said it from the beginning, you know, let's, you know, cut to the chase here. What this is really all about is, do you have the votes to get it through what you want to get through or not? Just about the votes at this point. And I'm not sure that there's anything bipartisan happening in this room this evening, but
Only one way to find out.
But what I have seen is it's down to this. We've gotten all the information. We've talked about this for 6 months. We've gotten all the information that we've asked for. We've gotten all the figures that we've asked for that show how this is going to affect budgets and tax rates and everything else. And it's really coming, and everybody that's in the room for or against the vote tonight has said they're in favor of the nursing home. So what the vote is really about tonight is, do you have any confidence in the commissioners and the administration to follow through on what they've done with this project with the same thing that they've done over the last 30 years, with what they did with the jail project, what they've done with all the other projects, do we have any confidence that they will repeat that? Or do we think that for some reason on this particular project, they're gonna go right off the rails and just throw the money around and do it differently? You know, I have the confidence that they're gonna repeat their behavior. And the other thing, the other 2 points that I have is that I certainly hope this meeting wasn't for me tonight, although I did request that I would like to vote on this project because I feel very strongly about it. I don't think it's really that important, but you know, I would also like to see that this built while County Administrator Bauer is still on the job. And I'm not sure how many more years, if we can delay that and still expect him to see this project through, or we have a new administrator. And if somebody, and putting the brakes on it and delaying it, and one of the upcoming new reps said it, you know, if anybody in here knows how that we can put a delay on the aging process of our county residents, please let me know, I'll pay for that. Because this is happening, we need it now. And I think any delay is wrong. So, you know, I'm really in favor of moving forward with a vote. If it fails, then let the new delegation take it up. Mac, you haven't spoken.
Mr. Chairman, I call the question. There you go.
Hand up for a while, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Yes, okay, Representative Wall, you're.
Oh, that's- I'm the senior member of this delegation, and I've seen how the commissioners in Gray have operated for years with the greatest caution not to spend money that shouldn't be spent and to spend money wisely for our future. I also happen to have the privilege of chairing the Riverside Rest Home Committee, and our committee is nonpartisan. We have Republicans, we have Democrats on it, but we have a committed committee who cares deeply about the neediest of the needy, who are our residents at the rest home right now. And putting this off and putting it off and putting it off, because every question that gets answered brings up yet another question that may or may not be vital. And I'm saying that how much longer can we put off what we need to be doing? I had volunteered in that nursing home. I had visited that nursing home. How many of you have really taken time to get to know anybody or anything about that nursing home? It's inadequate. For years, I asked for air conditioning during these wicked hot summer humid days we have. And sure enough, we finally got some air conditioning. How do they put it in individual units when you have to close the whole window so nobody sees outside, but you got a little bit of cool air coming in? In the winter time, it is drafty. When someone has to go downstairs for PT or OT, it's an old elevator, which holds only so many people at a time. So it delays the staff in getting the people to where they need to get the services that they are entitled to. Over and over again, I have seen how creative the county administrator and the administrator of Ray Bauer has been in terms of making things work well for our residents at the nursing home. And tonight I heard on one hand, we don't have enough information. A moment ago, I heard, oh my gosh, we got too much information. What is the matter with us? And probably we have a budget that we vote on, whether we want it or not, we have a deadline and we need it. Our former chairman of the finance committee knows very well that it's a tough process to go through to get there. Well, we have met for months and months now, and every one of our meetings is published. All talk about transparency. Every meeting is open. Any one of us or any one of the public can attend any meeting here at the county. This is not all new information that we have. Yes, there's a lot of it. Yes, we have a major decision to make, but we also need to think of our people. These are real people at the nursing home who have needs that must be met. And how much longer can we put it off? I'm going to call for the question, please, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Bixby.
I move that we amend the,
Is the question.
okay, so I'm gonna.
Questions, Paul.
Excuse me,
No.
the question has been called.
I know. Okay,
Well,
so this is on the.
Motion made and call the question. It has to be voted on. If you want to continue debate, if you want to stop.
Okay.
That has to be voted. She's made, the motion's been made and seconded. The limit on, sorry, the limit debate, or call the question. That has to be voted.
Okay, so all in favor of limiting debate, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. So.
Now.
So that's where.
We have a parliamentarian. This is the county attorney. The current motion has to be voted on right now, correct? Okay, that's what I want to clear. Point of order. No, Roberts. County's doing Robert.
Thank you.
Okay, so the clerk may call a roll on the motion of,
Bond, approval of bond to fund new nursing home, 150 million, correct?
correct, that's the motion.
Representative Ackerberg.
No.
Representative Bailey.
No.
Representative Bixby.
No.
Representative Cannon.
No.
Representative Chase.
No.
Representative Casey.
Yes.
Sorry, Conley, forgive me.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm fired. Representative Delinas.
No.
Representative Ellis.
Yes.
Representative Fargo.
Yes.
Representative Fontenot.
Yes.
Frost votes yes. Representative Borg is absent. Representative Grassi.
Yes.
Representative Fenton. Sorry, Groen.
No.
Forgive me. Representative Harrington.
No.
Representative Hayward.
No.
Representative Horgan.
No.
Representative Corrigan.
Yes.
Representative Kaczynski. Representative Kenny.
Yes.
Representative Kittredge.
No.
Representative Lebeck.
Yes.
Representative Newton.
No.
Representative Oxel.
Yes.
Representative Kukri.
No.
Representative Salloway.
Yes.
Representative Smith.
Yes.
Representative Smith.
Yes.
Representative Selfer.
Yes.
Representative Trelevin.
Yes.
Representative Turcott.
No.
Representative Wall.
Yes.
And Representative Welper.
No. Clerk will read the result.
I have 16 yes, 16 no. 16 votes for each.
Motion favors. So.
Representative Bixby has his hand up.
Representative,
I move that we amend the amount to, six million, whatever that specific number that Mr. McBurris has, that's required for the.
you're gonna make that motion, then we have to have the bond council version of it.
Right.
That's great.
Want to give it to him? I'll give it.
Let me get it.
What is the amount? 6,261,100.
This is the number, right? Okay.
Hey, read it in the microphone, Peter.
Whereas Strafford County, New Hampshire, the county plans to contract for the planning and design of a new 215-bed nursing home of approximately 231,000 square feet. The project and seeks to issue general obligation bonds in the amount of $6,261,184 bonds to finance the project. And whereas the county delegation has approved the supplemental appropriation for the project in the amount of $170 million. And whereas pursuant to the provisions of the RSA 28:24, after the delegation has authorized the issuance of the bonds, the interest rate, maturity, and other terms and conditions of the bonds will be approved by the county Board of Commissioners, the commissioners, at a publicly noticed meeting after 1, hearing the results of the public sales of the bonds, 2, hearing the results of the bidding process for the purchase of bonds that will be managed for the county by an independent municipal advisor, or 3, voting to enter into the loan agreement with the New Hampshire Municipal Bond Bank. Now, therefore, in consideration of the foregoing, it is hereby resolved that the delegation hereby authorizes the issuance of bonds in the amount of $6,261,184 for the purpose of financing the project with such interest rates, maturities, and other terms and conditions as may be determined by the commissioners at a duly noticed public meeting, authorizes the commissioners to apply for, obtain, and accept federal, state, or other aid, if any, which may be available for the project, including but not limited to the state of New Hampshire Governor's Office of Emergency Relief and Recovery County Home Nursing Home Infrastructure Program, currently estimated to be available in the amount of $50,075,000, in order to reduce the amount of bonds to be issued and to comply with all laws applicable to the project, authorizes the commissioners to issue, negotiate, sell, and deliver the bonds, and authorizes the commissioners to take any other action or pass any other vote relative thereto. Resolved that the county is hereby authorized to execute and deliver such documents and other materials, and to take such other actions as may be required for the closing and delivery of the bonds. Resolved that all actions heretofore taken in a manner consistent with the foregoing are hereby ratified and confirmed.
Second. Who's the second by? Representative Wolper. Third discussion.
Question.
Representative.
Yeah, I have a question of probably Administrator Bauer. By issuing a bond for $6 million, first of all, do you think this is enough of a commitment for us to get any grants from the governor's money that's out there?
Yes.
You think we may be able to get that money? Because that was the second question. If we don't get that money, this bond will go directly to the taxpayers.
That's correct. That's presuming there's no subsequent vote in favor of what this bond yields for information. Okay, in other words, if this bond, Representative Broom is exactly correct. This is, and the others that spoke, this bond, this is part of the, whatever money you would have voted for this project, whether it be 170, 150, 139 million, this work would have been part of that.
But it's gonna have to be paid out over the next 12 months, so you're gonna have to borrow it.
Well, or we get a reasonable cut off of what is remaining in the governor's, well, I'm sorry, never mind, my apologies. The ARPA funds, what's remaining, in the, $20+ million that we know is remaining in the ARPA. Whatever we would get from that would come out with less than that. So if we're, we might have the opportunity to have no bond at all if we make out well in that. And that's would certainly.
There's no commitment to build a project, so.
Absolutely no commitment.
So that they, any money at all from the operating.
Well, the second round has a different, has a different requirement than the first round. The first round was that you'd have to be shovel ready within a short period of time. The second round doesn't have that requirement.
Okay, Representative Turco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 6.2 million. This is what we would call in my previous life, operating on the fly. We have no idea what the 6.2 million is going to be used for, other than it's going to be applied to, I'm assuming, the project that we've been discussing. My previous comments have discussed the fact that we haven't looked at other options. This is going to be 6.2 million going towards design for the 139 million. Is that what it's for? I don't know. We have a new delegation. Representative Gruen mentioned this, or somebody mentioned it a few minutes ago. We have a new delegation coming in a couple days. There's no need for us on the fly to be flipping out a $6.2 million approval for a bond when the new delegation can do it within a few weeks. Adamantly against operating as a delegation this way. This is not how we should be doing business. Thank you.
Let me just get to one part of that.
Okay,
My only answer is we have the architect here. If the delegation is interested in the split up that 6.2 million, which is the exact number, that question could be answered if that's the interest of if the delegation so chooses.
Representative Wolf.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I seconded this motion and I approve of it. Because I think there's nearly universal agreement in this room that we need a nursing home. Knowing that, this motion says, since we're gonna build a new nursing home without a price tag, right? Well, we're gonna build one, we're gonna get started. And the way you get started is through this motion. Whether we go with the 190 million or the 78 million, in the end, doesn't make any difference. If we go to the money that's going to be spent for this will be necessary for any of those projects. So I'm totally for this. We should just get going and get this project, get the idea that we have all been supporting all summer moving.
Clerk will call the roll.
Representative Ankerbrough.
No.
Representative Bailey.
No.
Representative Bixby.
Yes.
Representative Cannon.
Yes.
Representative Chase.
Yes.
Representative Conley.
Yes.
Representative Lemus.
No.
Representative Ellis.
Yeah.
Representative Fargo.
Yes.
Representative Fontenot.
Yes.
Frost votes yes. Representative Grassi.
Yes.
Representative Gruen.
Yes.
Representative Harrington.
No.
Representative Hayward.
Yes.
Representative Corrigan.
No.
Representative Corrigan.
Representative Oregon votes yes.
Representative Kaczynski.
No.
Representative Kenny.
Yes.
Representative Kittredge.
No.
Representative Levesque. Yes. Representative Newton.
No.
Representative Oxel. Yes. Representative Petrie.
No.
Representative Salway,
Yes.
Representative Schmidt,
Yes.
Representative Smith,
Yes.
Representative Southworth,
Yes.
Representative Trelevin,
Yes.
Representative Turcott,
No.
Representative Wall,
Yes.
Representative Walter.
Yes.
Two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10, no.
I know 22.
None. Okay.
22 to 10 is passed.
22%.
Item 11, approval of minutes of August 24, 2022, public hearing and meeting.
So moved.
Moved by Representative Levin, seconded by Representative Fox. Are there changes, deletions, recommendations? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Opposed? You do it through the road. Yeah, and as well. Right? Any other business may come before? Representative Smith.
This is the last meeting.
Quiet, please, we're not done.
This being the last meeting of this delegation, I want to, I don't know whether to congratulate or condole, those who will not be back for the next session. But, in any event, I want to acknowledge, the work of the entire, delegation and give special attention to those people who have toiled in the vineyards and are not coming back. I, in this delegation, have two members of my committee, Wendy Chase and Kurt Welper, who are not coming back. And I cannot imagine two people who have better served their committee, their community, and the state. As you know, that does not mean that I agree with all the positions, but I do know that these are fine people, and I look forward to opportunities to working with them in the future. And I am sure others in this delegation can say the same thing for other members who are coming back, and one member who may or may not be coming back. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So my gratitude toward all of you who are here tonight, including the members of the public who've spoken or not, and those people who were disallowed by Representative Smith. And just please, the people who are not coming back, would you stand up so we can applaud you?
I still have.
Motion to adjourn. Motion by Representative, seconded by everybody.
Okay.